Chapter 704. This. Feng Bujue read the description of the equipment. But this is good stuff. Yes, the equipment is bound to the user, and there is almost no limitation to its usage. Anyone who holds it will gain a big boost. Xiao Ling added. Just based on the extra 7% life points, it could be sold for more than 300,000 renminbi at the auction house. For something like this that can be taken by anyone, why don't we play rock, paper, scissors to decide who gets it? Ruo Yu suggested. Okay, I have no problem with that, Xiao Ling said. Xiaotan shrugged. Sure, it doesn't matter. Feng Bujue said, I will not participate. I am sure I will win rock, paper, scissors. You know that. Seeing the attitude of these four, Bu and Ub were shocked. The two of them had also encountered situations where they had to queue up with people from other clubs. Usually, the side with more people would try their best to take all the benefits they could get from the script to their own side and let the outsiders suffer any losses. Even for some of the top clubs, they would at most be relatively fair on the surface. However, the people from Underworld Frontline before them were surprisingly calm when it came to equipment and skills. They did not care whether their teammates were from outside the club or not, and they did not care how much effort they had put in to obtain the item. As long as they were from the same team and were serious about the game, they would treat them as one of the recipients of the item. Furthermore, they did not care about the quality of the item. They only cared about who the item was most suitable for. In other words, this was truly a reasonable allocation based on the situation. Big sister, do you really want to play rock, paper, scissors with us to decide who gets it? Bu asked in disbelief. Yes, Ub added. Like this perfect equipment with almost no limitation, it usually belongs to whoever gets it first. Even if the person takes it, it is normal for them to quit. I know, we have encountered that kind of person before, Xiaotan said. Xiao Ling added, Xiaotan and I have been a team where all four of our teammates belong to another club. In the end, we took many risks, but the benefits were all taken by others. She paused for a moment. It's precisely because we hate this kind of behavior that we will never do it ourselves. That's right. As the leader of a club, I also think that our style shouldn't be so vulgar and low-end. Feng Bujue stood with his arms crossed in front of his chest and nodded arrogantly. No matter what the quality of the item is, if it suits you, you can ask for it without hesitation. If it doesn't suit you, you can forget about it. As for ambiguous situations, just try your luck. No one will complain. The second half of what you said makes sense, but Ruo Yu narrowed her eyes and continued, who admitted that you are the team leader. You're just a guild leader in name. Yes, the actual leader is you, okay? Feng Bujue spread out his hands and said with a smile, okay, you guys can play rock, paper, scissors. So, everyone really had a rock, paper, scissors duel. In the end, Xiaotan, who had outstanding character, won smoothly and got the Vanguard shield. Then, Xiao Ling took out 5 pieces of excellent equipment one after another. They were dog leash, golden boxers, pixel boxing gloves, titanium Jinhua ham, and smiling noodles. After some discussion, golden boxers and pixel boxing gloves were assigned to Bu. Dog leash was given to Xiao Ling, titanium Jinhua ham was given to Xiao Tan, and smiling noodles was given to Brother Ju. Let's not talk about the descriptions of these equipment for now. Let's talk about the story in front of them. After distributing the equipment and skills, Feng Bujue naturally put Blackbeard's skull into his bag, and no one else had any objections. The 4 men went forward to carry the box. The size of the metal box was very large, and it was as heavy as it looked. Fortunately, the 4 men in the team were all over level 40, so it was not difficult for them to carry the box together. After moving the metal box away, the entrance to a tunnel appeared in front of everyone. 2 meters below the entrance, they saw a stone staircase that extended downward. Feng Bujue took out a searchlight and shone it down. He found that on the wall next to the first stone staircase, there was a line of text. The body will eventually end up as a nuisance. Other than the mind, nothing beautiful or interesting can be preserved because the mind is life. Bernard Shaw. Feng Bujue jumped into the tunnel, read the text, and said, one of my idols. I can see. Ruo Yu, who followed closely behind, said, your works and words have revealed this point. Is it that obvious? Feng Bujue turned around and asked. I was very smart when I was born. Education destroyed me. The Second-Rate Detective and the Cat, Chapter 5, Verse 3. Almost without hesitation, Ruo Yu began to give examples. A fool will always find someone more foolish to admire him. This is the final chapter of the Internet of Murder, Verse 1. Where knowledge does not exist, stupidity claims to be science. This is also the Internet of Murder, but I've forgotten which chapter. She shook her head slightly. Anyway, I have already noticed that you like to quote Bernard Shaw's famous words very much, and your narcissism for your own wisdom is obviously higher than his. Okay. Feng Bujue tilted his head and shamelessly admitted it. While the two chatted, Xiao Tan, Xiao Ling, Bu, and up came down one after another. A few seconds later, everyone took out their lighting equipment, and under Feng Bujue's lead, they went down the tunnel. The entrance to the tunnel was not big, but the interior was quite spacious. The slope above the tunnel was more than 2 meters high, and the stone steps were wide enough for 5 people to walk side by side. Since Jianli Wang had removed all the hidden dangers, the players could move forward without worry. Of course, Brother Zhu would not fully trust Jianli Wang. Even though the man had promised to clear the obstacles for them, Brother Zhu still maintained his vigilance. He knew that, for Jianli Wang, he could find a chance to kill all 6 of them, and that would achieve his goal. At the same time, at the detective club, Brother Zhu, was there a guest earlier? Bill returned to the area where the Count of Script was. He looked around and said loudly, I think I saw second senior brother's shadow. As he spoke, he reached the Count of Script, who was currently a cola bottle. Brother Zhu? Brother Zhu? Bill looked at the bottle and called out twice, but the Count of Script did not respond. At that moment, Bill caught a glimpse of a small piece of paper placed beside the bottle. He scratched his head and revealed a 3 expression. He picked up the paper and read, The situation is urgent, so I have to go through in my mind. Watch the door. Before I come out, make sure I'm safe. 20 minutes later, after a monotonous but safe journey, the players came to an arched copper door. Use the key in your pocket to open the door to this stone tomb. Jianli Wang's voice appeared in the players' ears again. I thought you were disconnected. As Feng Bujue spoke, he reached into his shirt pocket to take out the faded copper key. As the key dissolved into white light and disappeared, the door to the stone tomb opened. Who would have thought that the key hidden under the oil lamp in the starting room would be the key to the final door of this scenario? I was just busy with something else, Jianli Wang replied. When Feng Bujue pushed open the door, he used a casual tone to say, You were there to deal with Brother Zhu, right? How did you know that? Jianli Wang's tone was serious and filled with suspicion. I was just guessing. From your reaction, it looks like I'm right, Feng Bujue replied. Actually, those who were familiar with Brother Zhu knew that this was not a random guess. When the Count of Script's last speech was cut off, Feng Bujue had already realized something must have happened to Brother Zhu. And that situation was most likely that Jianli Wang had used some kind of method to cut off the communication between the Count of Script and the players. It was not that hard to come to that conclusion. After Brother Zhu lost his voice, Jianli Wang did not speak again, which meant that he was busy with something else. It was not until the players entered the cave with the pirate's treasure that Jianli Wang started to speak again. But this time, there was an obvious change in his attitude. Brother Zhu predicted that Jianli Wang might not have gained the upper hand in the confrontation with Brother Zhu. Even though he had successfully stopped Brother Zhu from speaking, he must have paid quite a price. And there was a reason for Jianli Wang's silence. Other than not wanting Brother Zhu to take advantage of him, there was probably another reason, and that was he needed to divert his attention to deal with a battle that the players could not see. These were all things that Feng Bujue had gone through many times in his mind. Regarding these conclusions, he had about 60% confidence. Considering that there was no concrete evidence, he did not speak out these inferences. Now that there was a chance to test Jianli Wang through words, Brother Zhu naturally would not let it go. You are a despicable person, Feng Bujue. After hearing Brother Zhu's reply, Jianli Wang's tone changed. Do you know why? Ruo Yu turned around to look at Brother Ju and whispered, "Can I answer that for you?" Brother Ju narrowed his eyes and whispered back, "Stop fooling around. He was just asking a question." He was right. Dianhai King immediately continued, "Because you are too smart." It paused for half a second and said in a low voice, "On the surface, you are no different from most people who show off their knowledge and cleverness. But in reality, you are so smart that you can disguise yourself as that kind of person. You can hide your great wisdom under your shallow cleverness. You don't need to flatter me. We are on the same side, aren't we?" Feng Bujue replied with a smile and raised his hand to signal for his teammates to follow. After a while, the six of them all entered the stone tomb where my corpse was stored. The tomb was in the shape of a cross. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all made from silver gray, flat stones. The giant coffin placed in the middle of the tomb was also carved from stone. On the same side? Ha! Dianli Wang laughed. "You're not even lying to yourself, right? You and I both know that, as long as the situation allows it, we will not hesitate to kill each other." "You mean to say, we are the same kind of person?" Feng Bujue held the searchlight and led his teammates as they approached the stone coffin. "No, you are a person," Dianli Wang replied. "And I..." At this point, a tearing sound came from the stone coffin. As a layer of dust rose into the air, the coffin lid that was as thick as the wall slowly slid to the side before falling to the ground with a thud. "No." At that instant, the young child's voice rose from the coffin, and he continued with what he had just said. In the next second, a little boy with snow-white skin stood up from the coffin. He wore a simple children's outfit, 19th century style, and had curly chestnut hair. He looked completely unscathed, and even gave off a cute and healthy feeling. "I am a god." Dianli Wang looked straight at Feng Bujue and said solemnly, "From the ancient gods." Chapter 705. Even though I wish to put on the same serious expression as you. Feng Bujue looked at King Dianxin and said calmly, "But your current appearance and voice, combined with this kind of tone and lines, no matter how I look at it, you look like a mischievous child in the late stage of Chinibyu." "Humph! Are you trying to provoke me?" Dianxian King scoffed as he walked out from the coffin. "This is your usual trick, isn't it? Oh, I almost forgot. You've already heard about some of my deeds." When Feng Bujue said that, he aimed the searchlight at the man's face. "So, you've already prepared yourself for the horrible things that I might do, haven't you?" "I thought so as well." Dianxian King looked at the searchlight on his face and replied in a calm tone, "Until you started to sing the 18 touches." Feng Bujue laughed. "You already had your eyes on me then?" "No, it was even earlier than that," Dianxian King said. "Then it was..." Feng Bujue's mind turned, and after half a second, he said, "When I first met my mother." "Correct," Dianxian King replied. "So that's why," Feng Bujue said. "No wonder I felt something coming at the time, but I couldn't capture anything." He looked into the man's eyes and said, "Now that I think about it, that was the feeling of your consciousness enveloping me. Initially, I didn't see you as too big of a threat," Dianxian King said. "But soon, I heard the voice between you and the Count of Script. At the time, I made up my mind to deal with you as soon as possible. So, that was how the scene in the river happened." Feng Bujue continued the man's explanation. "Looks like you've guessed everything," Dianxian King said darkly. "You're right. Behind the door that led to the river, there was originally a small boat. But, to make you move separately, I moved the boat away." He paused. "I knew you wouldn't choose to swim as a group, because that would take a lot of time and effort. The result was just as I expected. You all used your own methods to move away from each other." At this point, Dianxian King took 2 steps to the side to move his face away from the searchlight. "When the time was right, I used the poison of the black rose to cover the area where you were and released a powerful monster to intercept you." He shook his head and sighed helplessly. "I thought this tactic would work. At least half of you will be dead or injured, but unfortunately, this ambush that you have so carefully planned did not achieve the effect that you expected," Feng Bujue said with a smile. Dianhai King scoffed coldly. "Humph! Your power is indeed beyond my expectation, especially you." He looked at Brother Jew and said, "Now that I think about it at that time, you have already noticed my plan, right? That's why you chose to cover the rear. I merely sensed that you wanted to increase the distance between us." Feng Bujue's tone and lines were rather humble, but his face was filled with pride. Who would have thought that my act of covering your retreat would have neutralized your plan from a strategic point of view? Listening to the conversation between Juju and Dianli, Bu and Ub were getting more and more scared. Ruoyu was calm in the face of danger. Xiao Ling followed her train of thought closely, and Xiao Tan was more adorable, so the three of them were calmer than the rest. Now that they thought about it, if Feng Bujue did not stay at the back of the group, things might have turned out differently. It was because Brother Ju chose to bring up the rear that he was able to deal with the monster that was chasing after them at the first possible moment. Along the way, he brought along all his teammates so that the six of them could meet up as soon as possible. But if Feng Bujue had been in the middle of the group, he would have had to choose a direction to go first. After leading the people on that side, he would turn back to the other side. This would not only increase the time that his teammates had to interact with the monster, it would also increase the time that they had to spend alone in the poisonous pollen. For example, Xiao Tan, if he met up with Ub any later, he would have started to breathe in the poisonous air. And on the other side, Ub would have been heavily injured by the monster before Feng Buju arrived. Considering the situation, it was possible that Ub would have died there. Once he died, the two breathing equipment that he had on him would disappear as well. This would cause a chain reaction. Bu and Xiao Tan, who lacked the ability to hold their breath, would be in grave danger. Now that he thought about it, the ambush that Dianhai King set up was quite brilliant. If this was a normal team of 6, even if they were not wiped out, they would have lost a layer of skin. Unfortunately, he ran into Feng Bujue. If the ambush at the river was viewed as a game, then be in terms of strategy or execution, Brother Ju had done his best. It was because of his performance that Dianhai King ended up with nothing. What happens next will only get worse for me. Dianhai King walked to stand before Brother Ju and continued, "Obviously, you have read that fairy tale before, so when I appeared before you in the form of a sparrow, I basically exposed my host. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for being overconfident," Feng Bujue replied. "You showed up too early." "Yes, I was too careless." Dianhai King shook his head. Then, the ambush at the Black River failed as well. After all, there was a system restriction there. I was unable to use some random method to kill all of you, so I could only temporarily trap the one with the highest terror points underwater. I thought I was the one with the highest terror points back then," Xiao Tan added when he heard that. Ub turned to him and said, "No, Brother Xiao Tan, you have overestimated me. Actually, I'm a coward. I might look calm on the surface, but that is just a matter of appearance." He was telling the truth. His malnourished face did give off an inexplicable sense of calmness. In conclusion, one wrong move and the whole game was lost, Dianhai King said. The accumulation of mistakes and disadvantages caused the situation to spiral out of control. He raised his eyes to look at Brother Ju. "In the end, I had no choice but to compromise." From the sound of it, "I am sorry that you have to work with me." Feng Bujue smiled. "Humph. Actually, it does not matter." Dianhai King scoffed, and a strange look crossed his eyes. To achieve the goal, this level of compromise it's nothing at all, right? Suddenly, a deep and wise voice rang out, taking over Dianli King's words. At that moment, Dianhai King's expression shifted. He turned around in a hurry and looked toward the source of the voice. He saw an old man in a white robe holding a staff slowly walk out from the depths of the stone tomb. The person had white hair and a white beard. He had a dignified appearance, and even though he looked old, the glow in his eyes made him look like a man in his prime. "What the? Could that be Gandalf?" Xiao Tan saw the figure and blurted out, "No, young man." The old man looked at Xiao Tan with a smile. "It is the Count of Script. You can come in on your own?" Feng Bujue was surprised. "Of course, I can come in," the Count of Script said. "But it is more troublesome and comes with a certain risk." "I get it now. It is similar to how we humans hypnotize ourselves, right?" Feng Bujue said. Feng Bujue, stop wasting my time. The Count of Script did not allow Brother Ju to continue the conversation. He continued in an interrogative tone. I asked you to destroy Dianhai King's host body and expel him from my body. But the last moment of success, you betrayed me for some equipment and skills. He paused. You forced me to come here myself. What do you know? Feng Bujue cursed back with a normal expression. After the hidden ending is achieved, I can deal with it. Hey, Dianhai King almost peed himself when he heard that. I can get the information on unknowable from you, and the equipment, skills, and hidden ending reward can be easily obtained through cooperation with Dianhai King. Feng Bujue looked at the Count of Script. My plan to maximize profit and kill two birds with one stone is ruined because of your appearance. Even the Count of Script was dumbfounded, much less Dianhai King. He looked at Brother Ju woodenly and stammered. This, Feng Bujue, you despicable man. 2 seconds later, Dianhai King roared. You dare to say that? Of course, the plan can't be carried out anymore. So why should I hide it? Brother Ju replied matter-of-factly, like his unscrupulous act of being a double agent was something that was above the law. Sigh. Feng Bujue took 2 more steps. He looked at Dianhai King and sighed. Actually, the line that I wanted to say the most was, I'm sorry, I'm a spy. You have made up your mind to be a traitor. Just how much do you want to be a traitor? Why do you make such despicable actions sound so cool? Dianhai King was extremely shocked, but on the surface, he still had to maintain the demeanor of a god. He couldn't ridicule him like that. Good, very good. Dianhai King glared at Brother Ju and hissed through his teeth. After I deal with the Count of Script, I'll deal with you slowly. Dianhai King had his own confidence. First, this Count of Script was just a mental projection, so he should not be able to unleash his full power. Second, even if Brother Count of Script could unleash his full power, it would be fine because his power was so weak that he might not be a match for Dianhai King. Third, due to the limitation of the main quest, the players would not attack Dianhai King's host because that would go against the requirement to clear the scenario. If they tried to force it, the system would deem it as an AFK-like behavior, and the more serious players would be kicked out of the scenario. In your dreams. Feng Bujue scoffed and turned to the Count of Script. Brother Ju, quickly tell us how to complete the main quest. The Count of Script was startled before he understood what his Brother Ju meant. He replied, that stone wall over there. He raised his staff and pointed. Solve the runes on it, and you'll be able to clear it. Shut up. Dianhai King also realized that something was wrong. His body flickered, and he charged at the Count of Script. Brother Zun was already prepared. As he dodged the attack, he continued, the puzzle is set up according to the Sudoku principle. Each symbol refers to a number. You can replace it with Roman characters and simplify it a little to decipher it. I told you to shut up. Even though Dianhai King was inside a host, he was still quite powerful. Even a normal physical attack had the force of 1,000 kilograms and the speed of lightning. If not for the system's protection, the stone tomb would have collapsed from the power that leaked out. But, as the saying went, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. As someone who was almost on the same level as the 4 pillars of divinity, the Count of Script's combat ability would not be that weak. When he focused on defense, Dianhai King would not be able to win in a short amount of time. Therefore, Brother Ju said as he fought, behind that wall, there's a corridor that hides the dead. After you pass through it, you'll reach a garden filled with black roses. After you enter the garden, follow the path in the shape of the letter I. If you see any pillars, stay at least 3 meters away. That way, you'll be able to find the juniper tree soon. When the Count of Script said that, Feng Bujue had already reached the stone wall. For Brother Ju, once he knew how to solve the puzzle, this kind of obstacle was nothing. He solved the Sudoku puzzle easily and opened the stone wall. Feng Bujue stood by the wall and did not enter it. Instead, he told his teammates, I won't be going over. Follow Brother Ju's instructions and finish the main quest as soon as possible. After you're done, don't wait for me, just teleport. Brother Ju, what are you doing? Xiao Tan asked with concern. Of course, Feng Bujue replied. As long as you complete the requirement, I'll no longer be restricted by the main quest, and I'll be able to fight Dianhai King with Brother Ju. Understood. Hearing this, Ruoyu immediately replied, Everyone, let's go. With that, she took the lead and rushed into the tunnel, disappearing in a few seconds. Ruoyu's train of thought was very clear. At this time, she should be decisive and resolute. Even though this reaction looked cold and realistic, in reality, this was the real way to help her teammates. In contrast to common scene in movies, you go, I'll stay. No, we'll leave together. Don't be silly, we'll die together. No, even if we die, we'll die together. These kinds of scenes and dialogues might look loyal, but in reality, they were very idiotic. Normally, when this kind of scene was used, the party who stayed behind had already set up a death flag. No matter how much you hesitated, you would still die. The only use of this kind of scene was to waste time and make the other party's sacrifice go to waste. What are you all waiting for? Hurry up and follow me. Feng Bujue saw that no one moved, so he raised his voice to urge them. If you have anything to say, say it after the scenario is over. Okay, Brother Ju, be careful. Good luck, Captain. Seeing Brother Ju's determination, Xiao Tan and Xiao Ling exchanged a look before following into the corridor. Teacher Ju, we'll meet again. Bu and Ub soon came to an agreement and left together. After all 5 of his teammates entered the corridor, Feng Bujue closed the stone wall again. He turned around to look at the 2 gods who were in the middle of a brawl. Chapter 706. Now that the outcome has been decided, I wonder if you two can spare some time to answer a few of my questions. Feng Bujue asked in a relaxed tone. What do you mean by that confident tone of yours? Dianli King replied with displeasure. It means that victory is already within my grasp. Feng Bujue shrugged and replied with a smile. Since this answer sounded like nonsense, he immediately added, At this moment, you no longer have the energy to interfere with the actions of my 5 companions. Once they complete the main mission, I can join the battle. Under the combined attack of me and Brother Zun, you will definitely lose. He paused for a moment before continuing. If you want to prevent that from happening, there's only one way, and that is to defeat Brother Zun before my teammates complete their mission. But you know very well that that's absolutely impossible. You might not be able to do that, even if you were given a few hours, much less a few minutes. Oh, you can see that? The Count of Script replied with a smile as he dodged an elbow strike from the other. What's so difficult about that? I merely observed and analyzed the combat style and data strength of the 2 of you. Feng Bujue replied calmly. Since the 3 of us can see the sequence of truth, I'll be frank. Dianli King, I don't know how strong your original body is, but your current ability is only slightly stronger than Brother Zun's. Humph. That's because the host has limited my power, Dianli King replied darkly. If I can use my full power, the 2 of you won't even last 10 seconds against me. Stop bullsh**, Ting. Feng Bujue cut him off. Brother Zun is not in his best condition, is he? He chuckled. Taking a step back, if what you said is true, why would you play this brain invasion and body takeover trick? Can't you just defeat Brother Zun directly? When Dianli King heard that he had been exposed, he could only grit his teeth and continue to attack. However, the Count of Script, who had decided to focus on defense and delaying, was not so easily defeated. Brother Ju's earlier words seemed to be a challenge, but they were actually hinting at what strategy he should use. At this point, it was just as Feng Bujue had said, the outcome had been decided. Oh, right. After a minute, Feng Bujue suddenly thought of something and said, I have a suggestion. Why don't you listen to it? Another conspiracy. This was the Count of Script's first reaction. King Dianli, in front of an inevitable result, your struggle is meaningless. How about this? Feng Bujue continued. You 2 stop fighting for the time being. Let's discuss a deal. When that was said, King Dianli's expression changed. He, who was already in a desperate situation, was overjoyed like he had seen his savior. Are you kidding me? The Count of Script scolded. I've already won. Why should I negotiate with him? Have you misunderstood something? A wicked smile appeared on Feng Bujue's face. Between you and it, The winner is in my hands. He adjusted his collar and titled his head to the side. I can help you. So naturally, I can help it as well. You. At that moment, the Count of Script felt a chill seep out from his bones. He realized the person who had control of the situation was Feng Bujue. King Dianli. Continuing the fight will only be a waste of everyone's time. Brother Ju turned to King Dianli. Only by trading with us will you have a chance. Then, he paused for half a second before turning to the Count of Script. Brother Ju, this situation is a classic Three Kingdoms relationship. I am the ruler, you are the loyal subject, and it is the traitor. To sum it up, if I die, you die. If I help you, you win. If I help it, you still die, but I will be fine. So, I hope you will listen to my suggestion. Ha! Brother Ju chuckled bitterly. Looks like I have no other choice. Then let's stop. Seeing that the other had agreed, King Dianli stopped his attack and retreated several meters. That's right. Feng Bujue continued. We're all cultured people. Let's talk peacefully and try to solve the problem. That's the way to go. What kind of plan do you have? Tell me, King Dianli said with annoyance. Before I tell you my plan, Feng Bujue said slowly, you'd better tell me first. All right, I know what you want to ask. King Dianli cut him off. Humph, you asked the right person, God. No one is more qualified than me to answer this question. It said quickly. Unknowable Een is the third eye of the war demon. Oh, Feng Bujue answered calmly and continued. Actually, that's not what I wanted to ask you. I just want to know, who are you? What do you do? How did you get into Brother Ju's mind? Wait, that's how we set the terms of the deal. He shrugged. Of course, I'll have to ask about the real identity of the item sooner or later. It's good that you can tell me now. You? When King Dianli heard this, his face was red from anger because he felt like he had been tricked by his brother Ju again. Ha! Don't be angry. The Count of Script came to mediate. You're the one who spoke before he finished his question. He waved his hand. At times like this, you need to take a deep breath and calm down. Can I ** King breathe? Can't you see that my host body is a dead spirit creature? Dianli Wang cursed gloomily. Oh, Zongzi. Feng Bujue scratched his chin. What kind of slang is that? King Dianli widened his eyes and looked at his brother Ju with confusion. Don't mind the details. Feng Bujue replied with a smile and brought the topic back on track. In any case, you have to tell me about yourself first so that we can come up with a plan that all three parties can accept, right? I'm an ancient god, King Dianli. Don't you already know that? King Dianli calmed down and replied in a gentler tone. Actually, when he was angry, there was nothing to be afraid of. After all, it was a child's voice. What else? Feng Bujue asked. Why did Brother Ju say that both of you are watchers, and why did he say that you betrayed your mission? Mission? Ha! Ha ha! King Dianli guffawed, but the laughter was filled with sadness. Do you know what I've been guarding? You ignorant human. Let me guess. Feng Bujue combined what the man had said and came up with a hypothesis. Word demon? Then, do you know what that word means? King Dianli asked. I'm all ears. Feng Bujue raised his right hand politely and signaled for the man to continue. In the last epoch, there was no such thing as the four pillar gods, and there was no Count of Script before us. There was no traveler or anomaly from another world. King Dianli replied. It was a pure world of black and white. There was a flash of nostalgia in his eyes. In the whole universe, there were only two supreme existences that were far more powerful than other life forms. That is the supervising god that represents light and order, and the war demon that represents darkness and chaos. The Count of Script continued. You sure know a lot. King Dianli glanced at his brother. Of the knowledge that I've been guarding, part of it is records about the ancient era, the Count of Script said. Your name is among them. Then why don't you explain it to me? King Dianli said. If there's anything that's not accurate, I'll fill in the gaps. Sure, the Count of Script replied, and then turned to Feng Bujue. In the ancient era, the supervising god and the war demon were like the yin and yang of the Tai Chi, maintaining the balance of the whole universe. As time passed, as the universe expanded, they naturally needed subordinates to help them manage it. Thus, They each used their own power to create some life forms, which later became the god race and the demon race. At this point, the Count of Script pointed at King Dianli. King Dianli was a survivor of the Celestials. In the ancient books, he was known as the ancient demon guardian. Wait, even Feng Bujue heard the problem. Why would a Celestial be known as a demon? Because I betrayed my own race. King Dianli answered the question himself. Oh, what's going on? Feng Bujue scratched his chin. Let me guess. This must be related to a certain girl. It's because the girls of the demon race are more upright. I didn't say I sided with the demon race. King Dianli immediately overturned Brother Ju's assumption and said darkly, I only raised some objections to the way my race did things, and I was put on trial. But I didn't just sit there and wait. I killed the executioner and escaped from the celestial race's territory. Since then, my people have called me a demon. As time passed, even the demon race saw me as a demon. I see. Feng Bujue nodded. Can I ask, what is this objection that you mentioned? I forgot. King Dianli replied without hesitation. Even Feng Bujue suspected that he had heard wrong. There's nothing strange about it. It's been so long. Who would remember that kind of thing? King Dianli replied. It's like you committed a crime and were sentenced to a few thousand years in prison. When you're released, the most you can remember is the crime. How could you remember the details of the case? Okay, I understand. Feng Bujue continued. What about your crime? Raising an objection is a crime in itself. The content of the objection is not important, King Dianli replied. The so-called order of the celestial race is the strangulation of all free will. They use a meticulous and unchanging system to manage everything under their rule. He explained, for example, the celestial race is like a group of people who control a large amount of water during a drought. Even if others die of thirst in front of them, they won't share a drop of water because that's the rule. They don't have a drop of blood on their hands, but they're dirtier and more efficient than any executioner. Furthermore, they believe that what they're doing is right and noble. At least, they're much smarter than those liberals who preach humanity. I get it now, Feng Bujue replied. For what you've said, I think you should join the great communism. That kind of thing doesn't matter. King Dianli interrupted his brother Ju. Don't stray from the topic. Yes, I'm only halfway through. The Count of Script added. He paused and continued. After many years, a tragedy suddenly arrived. No one knows why. Perhaps, due to the sudden interest of a creature from a higher dimension, our world welcomed the end of the world. Then it has to be Woody's doing. Feng Bujue mumbled. At this point, he had basically confirmed that the so-called primeval age was the destroyed, original version of Thriller Paradise that Zero mentioned. After the tragedy, our universe was reborn. The Count of Script continued. The 4 pillars of divinity were the first 4 creatures to be born in the new universe. After them, I and other higher existences appeared. He raised his head and looked at the ceiling. I don't know who my creator is, but I know that when I was born, I had unlimited knowledge and an indelible sense of purpose. My mission was to guard the knowledge inside the detective club until I, or this universe, was destroyed again. The Count of Script paced around and lowered his head to look at Brother Ju. If I'm the guardian of knowledge, then King Dianli is the guardian of power. He tossed the latter a complicated gaze. According to the records, just before the primeval age was destroyed, the supervisor god challenged the war demon. In the end, he used all his divine power to seal the war demon into the door to the void. He used a special life form that had both god and demon as the hub of the seal. From then on, that life form was known as the primeval guardian demon. I'm afraid the supervisor god would never have imagined that his action would allow the war demon to survive. King Dianli scoffed. But due to the exhaustion of his divine power, he died in the tragedy not long after. Then, I'll let you explain how you sneaked into my mind. The Count of Script looked at King Dianli, and his tone changed. Isn't it obvious? At this time, Dianli King had already put on a fearless look. I relied on the demonic chi that seeped out from the door to the void to accumulate my strength. After a long time, I finally escaped. He paused for a moment before continuing. The seal of the Overseer God is indeed impressive. It's almost impossible to break it with external forces. Fortunately, I'm part of the seal, and I've obtained a huge amount of power from the war demon over the years, so... Wait a minute. Feng Bujue reached out a hand and put on a calm face. Based on what you're saying, now that the seal has been broken, then... The war demon, no, not yet, the Count of Script said. That seal won't be broken so easily. Even if the guardian demon has left, there's a way to fix it. He pointed at King Dianli. As long as we can capture it before the seal collapses, we can recover. Stop dreaming. Even if I die, I won't go back. At this moment, Dianli King's eyes were filled with panic and madness. All these years, it's not only demonic aura that has seeped out from the door to the void. At this point, countless horrifying experiences flashed through his mind. There's also... Boy, what's that? Feng Bujue asked casually. It's hard to explain with words, the Count of Script replied. You can see it as a kind of material that has substance, or you can see it as a kind of intangible power. In fact, it's just a concept. With your human mental power, once you come into contact with nothingness, your consciousness will crumble, King Dianli added. Even for me. After coming into contact with a small amount of nothingness that leaked out from the door, I was in so much pain that I wished I was dead. That scary feeling. I'll never forget it. Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Basically, it's the kind of feeling where you lose all your five senses like you're trapped in an eternal darkness, something that makes you question your own existence, right? He shrugged. When I was inside the door to the void, I experienced that as well. It was quite uncomfortable. Chapter 707. Once Feng Bujue said that, both the Count of Script and Dianli exclaimed in unison, "You've been through the door to the void?" "Ah, I've been there once," Brother Ju replied in a calm tone. "But I didn't stay there for long, and at the time I had no idea where I was, and I had no idea that the voice that communicated with me in the dark was actually the war demon." "You even talked to the war demon?" Dianli King's surprise was understandable. Like what he had said, under normal circumstances, once a life form like human entered the environment of nothingness, their consciousness would collapse and disappear instantly. Even if there was some kind of freak with unusual talent, like Brother Ju, who could survive inside the door to the void, there was no way they could have any kind of communication with the war demon. This was because the war demon was best at communication, destruction. It would not hesitate to destroy any life form other than demons, and it did not need any reason. In comparison, the leader of the demons, the god of the new era, was a gentleman. Yes, but unfortunately, we did not get anything out of our conversation. Feng Bujue replied. But now that I think about it, many things have become clearer. He thought back to the first time he used the descent of the war demon and said, first, the flow of time inside the door to the void is obviously different from outside. My consciousness stayed inside for a few minutes, but only a moment passed in the outside world. In other words, the actual time that the war demon has been imprisoned is much longer than you think. A day in the outside world might be several months or even a year to it. He turned to look at the two gods. Can you two imagine? It has already been in nothingness for tens or even millions of years. I cannot. The Count of Script continued. And I do not want to think about it, huh? I feel the same way. Feng Bujue smiled. He paused and continued. Secondly, the war demon has already forgotten who it is and who its enemy is. In fact, it does not even remember where it is and why it is locked up. If it has really been in nothingness for more than 100,000 years, then that is not surprising, Dianli said with cold sweat. Perhaps it was because it has been locked up for too long, lonely. When I visited, the ancient demon king showed me great compassion and patience. Feng Bujue continued. It tried its best to answer all the questions I asked, even though it did not remember much. Other than that, it was very active in persuading my consciousness to leave quickly so that it would not consume it unconsciously. At this point, he opened his hands. And when I said that I was here to accept demonization, it helped me very readily. It blew a breath at my consciousness. And your soul did not dissipate. Dianli asked. The fact that I'm standing here now has explained everything. Feng Bujue titled his head and smiled. Of course, the experience of being demonized for the first time was not good. The extreme pain surpassed both physical and mental limitations. It even made me feel like I had broken free from the shackles of time. Compared to that kind of torture, reaching my hand into the lawnmower was like playing with a toy. Feng Bujue, you are indeed exceptional. Dianli looked at Brother Ju and said darkly, as a human, it is already a miracle that you can maintain your sanity inside the door to the void. Who would have thought you could survive the demonization personally bestowed by the war demon? It looks like the strength of your soul has far surpassed the limit of your race. Ah, I suppose so. After Brother Ju answered, he changed the topic. About my encounter with the war demon. Let's stop here. That has nothing to do with what we are going to discuss now. He took a few steps forward and looked at Dian Xiaoqing. Let's talk about you. He paused for a moment before continuing. Even though you've told me about your situation, I feel like you haven't explained it clearly enough. Humph, you sure are a clever strategist. Dianli's tone was laced with sarcasm. Feng Bujue did not mind it and continued. You are someone who is good at strategizing. You will not fight a battle without preparation. Furthermore, when you're trapped inside the seal, the thing you do not lack the most is time to think. Therefore, before you destroyed the seal, you must have come up with a plan to escape. Using his left hand to support his right elbow, he put his right index finger and middle finger together and gently stroked the bridge of his nose. At the same time, he lifted his chin slightly and muttered, all these years, you've accumulated a lot of strength by absorbing the devil energy that seeped out from the door gap. But you know very well that just having the power to break the seal is not enough. You have to leave some power to protect yourself. Otherwise, even if you escape the seal, this freedom will not last long. At this point, Brother Ju's tone changed slightly. However, things did not go according to your plan. When you were escaping from the door to the void, there must have been some kind of accident that caused your power to be far lower than what you expected. That is logical and reasonable, the Count of Script said as he stroked his beard. All right, I will tell you. At this point, Dianhai King had nothing to hide, so he decided to be honest. For example, I originally prepared 10% of my power. 40% of it was used to break the seal, and 60% was reserved for self-protection. In my calculation, with that 60%, even if I ran into the 4 pillars of divinity, I would be able to escape unscathed. He shook his head. But the seal set by the supervising deity has its own secrets. He had already considered the possibility of the seal being broken, so he left a safety measure on it. Thankfully, I was prepared enough and managed to break the seal, but I had already used 80% of my power. So that's how it is. Hearing this, the Count of Script understood. You, who only had 20% of your power left, knew that you were powerless against the experts who came to capture you. So, you came up with a plan to hide at a place where no one would be able to find you. He used his finger to tap his temple. The world inside my mind. If everything went smoothly, you could hide here until the seal was completely broken. By then, the war demon would have appeared, and there would be no point in capturing you, so you would be free. Feng Bujue continued. Other than that, you could use your unique parasitic power to complete the possession on Brother Zun and gain all his power. Humph! Objectively speaking, your plan is indeed a brilliant plan that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. The Count of Script smirked. To be able to do this with the remaining 20% of your power after the accident, that is impressive. At this point, he changed the topic. But, as the person involved, I can only say that this is a cruel plan. For me, there is no such thing as cruel or not, Dianxin King said. It is survival of the fittest. In this case, I'm not targeting you or anyone else. I merely did what I had to do to regain my freedom and survive. There is no love or hatred involved. Even if I succeed, I will not feel any guilt or satisfaction. As he spoke, he glanced at Brother Zune. Actually, those emotional things are common among the creatures of your new era. From the perspective of the truth sequence, our generation is much simpler than yours. Simple, pure, and powerful. So this is the original version. Feng Bujue thought to himself. I suppose there are pros and cons. Of course, personally, I prefer this more complicated and humane version. Current quest completed. All main quests completed. The sudden system announcement pulled Brother Ju back from his thoughts. That was fast. Feng Bujue opened the game menu and glanced at it. The quest, Solve the Mystery of the Cursed Juniper Tree Without Killing Me, had been ticked off, and the team tab showed that all 5 of his teammates were still alive. Then came the announcement. You have completed the scenario. In 180 seconds. The system did not finish the announcement. I have canceled your automatic teleportation time limit. You won't mind, right? Brother Zune immediately told Feng Bujue. It's fine. I was going to let you do the same. Feng Bujue replied with a normal expression. I've already come up with the details of the trade. 3 minutes is not enough to explain everything. What do you want? Dianxin King asked. Yes. Feng Bujue, the Count of Script added. I'm also curious. What is your plan? Don't worry. Brother Ju opened his lips to reveal a wicked smile that would send chills down one's spine. I just want to reshuffle the power of the major forces in this universe. Chapter 708. It was the middle of July, midsummer. After entering the 21st century, almost every year at this time, S-City would experience a continuous high temperature for more than 20 days. Although the weather forecast reported 38 to 39 degrees every day, walking under the sun would tell that it was more than 45 degrees. Of course, for people like Feng Bujue who did not need to go out to work, it did not affect him much. It was just that he had to pay more for electricity. The air conditioner must not be turned off. July 16th, 10 p.m. Feng Bujue was in his bathroom, doing something that he was very unwilling to do, but had to do. I say, as a creature who thinks of herself as higher than me and is a female in spirit, why do you always ask me to help you bathe? Feng Bujue said as he rubbed the fur on Arthas' back. Isn't that obvious? Arthas had a joyful expression on her face as she enjoyed the feeling of the shampoo bubbles floating on her body. In my cat form, I can't use the toiletries freely. You can change back to your original demon form and change back after bathing, Feng Bujue suggested. Arthas snorted. Firstly, if I do that, the cat's body will still be dirty. The only thing that will be clean is my demon body. Secondly, I don't want to be peeped on by you. Firstly, I have no intention of peeping on your body. Feng Bujue immediately replied. Secondly, even if I have the intention, I'm afraid I don't have the ability to carry it out because when I do, you will definitely notice and stop me. As he spoke, he added some shampoo to his palm. Moreover, even if I can peep without being noticed by you, it is very likely that you will find out afterwards. The consequences will be unimaginable. Brother Ju took his time to say all that and concluded. In conclusion, I have no ulterior motives. Not your head. Meow. Arthas immediately roared and swung its tail over. Feng Bujue was hit in the chest, and he tumbled to the ground with his limbs sprawled out on the ground. So much nonsense. To sum it up, isn't it just that you want to have sex, but don't have the guts? Arthas raised its right claw, flashing its sharp little nails, and pointed at Brother Ju in a condescending manner. You've thought it through so thoroughly, and you're still denying it with a straight face. You're quite hard-working, Meow. I have to correct you. Feng Bujue quickly sat up again and continued to say seriously, even if I really have the intention of observing your body, this intention comes from the curiosity of human beings towards unknown creatures. It has nothing to do with the lust you mentioned. I've never thought of 27 types of interracial play. Cross your sister. While interrupting Brother Ju, Arthas flew up and kicked him in the face. Reporting the exact numbers with such composure, Meow. This time, Feng Bujue fainted for a few minutes. Fortunately, he was fine. Half an hour later, Fong Bujue finally finished serving Arthas and returned to the living room. Sigh, I know that she's a demon sent to spy on me, but I still have to bathe and cook for her and treat her like an ancestor. I don't know when these days will come to an end. He complained all the way to the gaming cabin. Phew. Brother Ju stretched, moaned comfortably, and then laid down in the cabin. Welcome to our company's products. Scanning has begun. Please wait a moment. Scanning completed. Confirmed citizen ID. SH13 ***** 313. Name. Fong Bujue. Access device. NL 2055 standard single-player gaming cabin. No abnormal external hardware detected. Heart and lung function normal. Neural connection program ready. Please select the type of access. Access type is sleep mode. Adjusting. Adjustment complete. Please set the time of loading the game or return to the superior option. Setting complete. The connection program will be activated at 00 a.m. July 17th, 2055. Good night. After setting the login time, Fong Bujue adjusted his mood and quickly fell asleep. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in the login lobby. Okay, let's take a look at the mail first. As usual, Fong Bujue opened the mail first. While Brother Ju was reading the mail, let's take a look at his character's current attributes. I'm sure the audience is already mentally prepared. Title: Sly Schemes, Title Ability, Divine Foresight, Experience, 2315670048000. Skill points, 7604. Game coins, 982000. Mastery. General ability A. Workmanship A. Sleuthing C. Fighting A. Marksmanship C. Medic D. Sorcery A. Summoning B. Inventory, 1925 Compound Anti-Gravity Gun. Bell of Jean Gang. Life Points Recovery Potion M. X5. Endless. Grenade Magazine, WJQ, 308 Military Shovel. Indestructible Type. Damage Shroom X1. Deception Pocket Watch. Blade of Mustbreak. Chuck Norris's Razor. Oxygen Pipe. Bane's Blood X1. Siren. Wind, Forest, Fire. Mountain Een. Thunder, Blackbeard Skull. Equipment: Death Poker, Sorcery Weapon, Echo Armor, Artemis's Embrace, Alchemist King's Taunt, Void Walk, Phantom Madam's Caress, Bale's Daily Knife, Smiling Noodles. Storage 1 15th Puzzle Card, Sheep X2, Puzzle Card, Cow, Puzzle Card, Twins Puzzle Card, Crab Puzzle Card, Lion Puzzle Card, Libra Puzzle Card, Scorpion Puzzle Card, Bow and Arrow Puzzle Card, Bottle, Puzzle Card, Fish, Pokerman Hero ID Card. Skills Column, 1/12 Mechatalk Power Spiritual Sense Body Enhancement Technique Demon King, Inferno Jevenka Storm Tri-Beam Wild Ball, Fist Devilish Childs, Lower Whip, Kick Telepathic, Finger Summoning, Technique Masashi Summoning, Technique Masana Equip Skills. Ice Alchemist Persistence, Not So Hasty Repair, Southern Dipper Flying Dragon Fist. From the data, one could see that in the past 20 days, Fong Bujue had grown quite a bit. Needless to say, the increase in level aside, the gain of over 7,000 skill points was quite substantial. His workmanship and sorcery mastery had both been upgraded to grade A. His inventory had also been expanded again, due to the increasing number of strange items that he needed to carry with him. As for the puzzle cards, after some hard work, he finally managed to gather 11 pieces of the 12 zodiac signs theme cards. He only needed one more puzzle card related to Virgo to complete the set. In terms of skill, Brother Ju used Mechatorque's power to replace Not So Hasty Repair. Even though the skill was quite random from the effect, it was not a bad idea to use it to level up his workmanship mastery. In terms of equipment, there were two changes. 1. He had used Bane's Blood. 2. He had brought back a piece of equipment from the Count of Script's mind. Actually, he had been using it for quite some time already. Smiling face. The pale mask was like an exaggerated and creepy smiley face. The corners of its lips stretched all the way to its ears. From a certain perspective, it suited Fong Bujue quite well. Name: Smiling Face. Item type: Armor. Quality: Excellent. Defense point: Slightly weak element. None special effect: Nullify a single psychic attack aimed at you cooldown of 1 hour, and the effect will not be triggered if the attack is too high or too low. Equip requirement. Level 45 and above remark. I am the scary smiling man. What is the smiling man laughing about? He is laughing at you, laughing at himself, laughing at everything. What does his laughter mean? It means your sins and his pain. He has thrown the sins on your heads. He has spat the pain on your faces. I'm smiling, which means that I'm crying. That was the change in Brother Jew's attribute. Now, back to the story. Okay, the emails have been decreasing lately. Not bad. After dealing with the emails, Phone Bujue opened the social menu to see if anyone from his club was online. In the end, he just happened to see the status of the two IDs, like Rain and Flower on the Stone, change from in-game to idle. Therefore, Brother Jew immediately invited the two of them to join the meeting room. Chapter 709. When Ruo Yu and Yuechin walked into the conference room, Phone Bujue had been waiting at the table for some time. Hi, you two are up early today. Brother Jew waved his hand and greeted them. Going to bed early is good for the skin, and Yuechin replied. And going offline early is good for the quality of sleep, Ruo Yu added. Okay. Phone Bujue shrugged and did not continue the topic. 2 seconds later, Ruo Yu added, by the way, Xiao Ling asked me to tell you something. She and Xiao Tan probably won't be online tonight, so we don't have to wait for them. Oh, is that so? Phone Bujue's expression shifted slightly, and he raised his brow with a smile. Xiao Tan didn't even say hello to me. Looks like something bad is going to happen. The actual situation is obviously different from what you think. Ruo Yu looked at Brother Jew's evil expression and said coldly, but I'm too lazy to explain it to you. She changed the topic. In any case, let's discuss the character's data and prepare to depart. Phone Bujue, level 48, like Rain, level 46, Flower on the Rock, level 39. Please select the game mode that your team wishes to join. You have selected Team Survival Mode, Normal. Please confirm. Confirmed. The number of team members has been randomized, 5. Your team has joined the queue. Searching for other readied players or teams. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario. The system notifications appeared before his eyes. When the word generate appeared, Phone Bujue's eyes shone with white light, and his body turned into data and was transported out. Welcome to. Something strange happened at that moment. For some reason, the classic opening line was cut off, and it was replaced by a strange and noisy noise. What's going on? Phone Bujue asked. Is this some kind of scare tactic? Download complete. Immediately after, another system notification sounded. There were only 5 words. There was no description of the mode, no reward, and no introduction of the scenario. As soon as he finished speaking, Phone Bujue regained his ability to move. Wow, that's something new. Phone Bujue observed his surroundings as he read. I can understand the lack of a scenario introduction. It is to limit the amount of information that the players are given at the start of the game. But he didn't even write down the reward for clearing the level. What was he trying to do? At that moment, Brother Jew was alone on a piece of flat land. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, and it looked like it was noon. As far as the eye could see, no matter which direction he looked, the scenery was similar. Between the clouds in the distance, there were continuous mountains, but it was impossible to tell how far those mountains were from him. From the looks of it, there won't be any danger for the time being. Phone Bujue looked around and opened the game menu, ready to see who the 2 random teammates were. If he did not look, he would not have known, but once he did, he was stunned. Hey, what is going on? Brother Jew could not help but ask. His shock did not come from the ID in the team tab. He was shocked because the team tab had turned into a shadow, and he could not see anything. This is not right. Phone Bujue's expression turned serious. The introduction is not clear, the mission is not clear, and the reward is not clear. Even the status of my teammates is not clear. There are many things that you do not understand. Suddenly, a woman's voice came from behind Brother Jew and took over his words. Brother Jew was startled and turned his head toward the voice. He did not ask questions like, who is this? because he knew very well that this was not a normal person. About 10 seconds ago, Fong Bujue had just scanned his surroundings. There was not even a dog, much less a person. In this flat land, there was no cover, and under the scorching sun, there was nowhere to hide. Now that a voice suddenly came from so close, there must be something wrong with the person who came. Preliminary judgment was that this person either knew how to hide, teleport, or fly into the sky and burrow into the ground, or use the transfiguration technique. "Oh, it's you." The moment he turned around and saw the person, Fong Bujue's expression suddenly relaxed, as if all the doubts that had troubled him had disappeared at this moment. At this moment, standing behind Fong Bujue was a beautiful woman dressed in ancient clothing. Her beauty was flawless. Whether it was her face or her posture, it gave people a feeling of perfection that was close to unreal. She was like a beauty in a painting, untouchable. "What? You can recognize me without using the data view?" Lute saw that Brother Ju recognized him at a glance and immediately showed a suspicious expression. "I have seen this posture of yours once. Do you remember?" Fong Bujue replied with a smile. "But at the time, I'm different from now," Lute replied. "Yes, you have more clothes," Fong Bujue added. "You have changed your hairstyle." He shrugged. "Can we get to the point? This is a sandbox." Lute was indeed an anomaly. She was so jumpy when it came to the point. "I built it at the last minute." She paused and raised her finger to point in a direction. "Let's talk as we walk. That will save us some time." "Okay." Fong Bujue nodded and followed. "Not long after your last visit to the inner world, something big happened here," Lute said as they walked. "After this period of time, the influence of that thing has been expanding, and it has reached the point where we have to deal with it urgently." "So," Fong Bujue asked in a questioning tone, "you pulled me into this sandbox?" "Yes." Lute nodded. "I have been trying to contact you, but it is very difficult. Finally, I found a chance." She explained. "The sandbox that we are in now is not very stable in terms of structure. You should have noticed that there is not even a system prompt. You copied it before the scenario generation was completed, right?" Fong Bujue asked. "No, my method is more complicated than that," Lute replied. "I will not explain the technical details to you. You only need to know that this sandbox will not exist for too long. Other than that, we do not need to stay here for too long." She turned to look at Brother Ju. "You can see this place as a tunnel." "Tunnel?" Fong Bujue repeated and then asked, "From where to where?" "From the data layer of the scenario. It leads to a special location in the inner world." At this point, Lute's eyes shifted. To be exact, it leads to Pine Maze. Chapter 710. Dear viewers, it is time for the monthly preview. First, I would like to thank all of you for your subscriptions and monthly tickets. With your support, I will be able to support my family and focus on my writing. Thank you so much. Secondly, I have to mention that Thriller Paradise's spin-offs and prequels are now available for sale at Chidian Shopping Center. Those who missed out on the chance to get their hands on them still have a chance. Now, it is time to talk about the plot. In October, I have always adhered to the principle of not allowing any previews, so I decided to write the scary nursery rhyme until the end of the month. Initially, I wanted to write a normal script, but in the end, I could not help but jump to the ancient Demon Guardian storyline. Of course, there is nothing I can do about it. After all, the outline is already in my mind. So, there is no need to mind the details. After all, the harem chapter has already started. As for how much I will write, how long I will write, and what I will write, I have no idea. I will only know after I finish writing it. However, I have already planned out the plot after the harem chapter. It should be a chapter called Thunderbolt Martial Competition, so please look forward to it. Other than that, the plot for Tournament for the Best S2 is currently in the preparation stage. Those who have read the prequels should have a rough idea of the format of the tournament. If there are no accidents, next spring, I am talking about the time in our universe, so please do not confuse it with the time in the book will be the start of the tournament. Fine, even though I have said a lot, the plan cannot keep up with the changes. Who knows what will happen when the time comes. Chapter 711. Brother Ju followed Lute and walked for about 10 minutes. The mountains that were so far away that they could not reach appeared before their eyes. It looked like there was indeed something wrong with this sandbox. At least in terms of the sense of distance, it was obviously against the laws of physics. Are we going to the other side of the mountain? When they reached the foot of the mountain, Feng Bujue asked in a timely manner. Yes, there is a city on the other side of the mountain, Lute replied. Oh, Feng Bujue nodded and then asked, are my teammates in that city? They are all here, Lute replied. But currently, I am unable to scan their data. Oh, why is that? Feng Bujue asked. Can't you see it yourself? Lute replied impatiently. Feng Bujue's eyes fell on Lute. I can see it, but I don't understand why. Actually, when he saw Lute, Feng Bujue noticed that the strength of her data had become very low. To put it simply, it is the after effect of overload, Lute said. Then what about the details? Brother Ju asked again. Lute sighed and explained, it is very difficult to create this kind of temporary sandbox quickly. Locking onto your data flow and guiding it here is not easy either. She paused. Of course, the most difficult step is to use this sandbox as a channel and set it up between the two data layers. At this point, Lute turned to look at Brother Ju. To do all these things at the same time, it requires a lot of calculation and output operations. Even I would be a little overwhelmed. Thus, I entered a state of weakness after overload. She shook her head and said rather helplessly, as you can see, my power has greatly decreased. I have regressed to the level of a level 4 anomaly. Therefore, the moment the sandbox was formed, I could only focus on you alone to ensure that I could immediately appear near you after the data was reorganized. As for the data of your teammates, I didn't have the time to check their IDs. I only know that their data was sent to the city. Oh, I see. Feng Bujue nodded. The two of them chatted as they walked. Not long after, a gorge appeared in front of them. Sunlight shone down from the top of the gorge, forming an intermittent band of light that illuminated their path. By the way, why are you dressed like this? After stepping into the gorge, Feng Bujue quickly thought of another question. Of course, it was automatically generated based on the scenario's worldview, Lute replied. In the eyes of the NPCs, you are wearing a similar outfit. In other words, this is probably a wuxia, xinxia, or xuanhuan-themed world. Feng Bujue scratched his chin as he thought about it. But perhaps it is just a simple, ancient setting and does not contain any wuxia or xinxia setting. I don't know how to define the xinxia and xinxia that you mentioned, Lute said. I only know that the creatures in this scenario are not weak, and their power system is very complicated. Oh, Feng Bujue was intrigued. That is interesting. What else do you know? Tell me all about it. Lute started to explain. The city across the mountain is called Harem City, and the city owner is called Ji Xiaolong. Hey, Feng Bujue put on a pained expression in 2 seconds. What kind of setting is this? This is no longer a matter of curiosity. Are you sure we haven't entered some kind of perverted world? Lute ignored his brother Bujue's criticism and continued to explain. According to legend, the city owner of Harem City is extremely beautiful. Her face is unparalleled, her body is curvaceous, her skin is smooth, and her presence is otherworldly. No matter if it's a man or a woman, with just one glance, they will fall in love with her and remain faithful until death. What the F***CK? And she's a woman. Feng Bujue was startled. Wait a minute, why does that sound so weird? This doesn't sound like something an anomaly like you would. I'm just reading the scenario introduction, Lute replied calmly. Even though you, players, did not see it, I have seen the data of the original scenario. Since you're interested, I'll read it for you. Okay, please continue, Feng Bujue said. Therefore, Lute imitated the tone of the system's voice and slowly recited, I'm sorry. Ji Xiaolong was born in the Ji family, one of the 4 big families in the Sane origin world. Her brother, Ji Xuanzong, is the 147th head of the family. The Ji family is an orthodox family, and Ji Xuanzong is seen as one of the strongest heads of the Ji family. When he was young, he was already one of the top geniuses in the Saint Origin world. Compared to her brother, Ji Xiaolong is not far behind. After only 300 years of cultivation, Ji Xiaolong has already entered the 9 cycles of Saint Origin. Her speed of improvement is only 10 years slower than her brother's. In the 49th year of the Kirin Saint Origin world, Ji Xiaolong, who is 316 years old, broke her engagement. She severely injured her fiancé, who came to propose marriage, and ran away from home. 316 years old is considered young. Feng Bujue's lips twitched. Then a 24-year-old person like me is equivalent to a puddle of liquid in this world. 3 years later, on the shore of the Eastern Sea, a magnificent city appeared, Harem City. The city lord was Ji Xiaolong. She claimed to be the overlord of women, and she openly declared to the world that she liked women. Hey, Feng Bujue could only shout to express his feelings. Hey, this caused quite a stir in the Saint Origin world. For a time, many women came to meet this heroine. In the end, many of them ended up as part of Ji Xiaolong's harem. Nice! Feng Bujue's eyes were blurred as he thoughtfully said in English. Since then, every year on the 12th of the Phoenix month, Ji Xiaolong would go out of the mansion. First, she would admire the moon. Second, she would find a woman in the city that she liked and bring her into the harem. 20 years have passed, and Harem City has become famous. Every year, countless men and women would travel thousands of miles just to catch a glimpse of Ji Xiaolong's peerless beauty. However, only a very small number of people can actually enter the city. Even if they do enter the city, many never come out. At this point, Lu Ti's tone returned to normal. Actually, her normal tone was not much different from the system's voice, just slightly more emotional. This is the introduction of the original scenario. Ha! Ha! Feng Bujue laughed drily. Can I ask what the original main mission is? The system hasn't generated that part of the data yet. Lu Te replied. When she said this, the two had just reached the exit of the canyon. At this time, a strange, fragrant sea breeze suddenly blew over. Feng Bujue stopped and looked into the distance. What entered his sight was a peach-red ocean. The color of the ocean had nothing to do with the sunlight. It was the color of cherry juice. On a huge rock less than 2 kilometers away from the coast stood a huge city that looked like a mirage. That place was the destination of their trip. So, the most important thing now is for you to meet up with your teammates. Lu Te continued. That way, the system will re-identify the data here and give you the mission. Then, I will help you complete the main mission and teleport them away. Her eyes changed slightly. After they leave, we can get down to business. Chapter 712. After exiting the gorge, Feng Bujue followed Lu Te and continued to move forward. They walked down the mountain for more than 10 minutes, passing through a shoal filled with reefs. Then they climbed up a steep cliff and finally arrived at the dreamlike city. The Harem City is protected by a barrier, so you can only enter and exit from the city gate. Lu Te was like a system assistant, explaining to Brother Ju as they walked. There are 4 gates in the city, and each gate is guarded by a guard. These people are all disciples of Ji Xiaolong, and their strength is not to be underestimated. If someone who does not meet the entry requirements tries to force their way in, they will not show any mercy. Entry requirements. Feng Bujue muttered. Sure enough, it is not a place that can be entered casually. As they talked, they arrived at the city gate. It was a giant arched gate that was 8 meters tall. A stone tablet hung above the gate, and the words South Gate were engraved on the tablet. Standing outside the gate and looking into the city, one could only see a blurry fog. Presumably, some kind of spell was cast on the gate so that outsiders could not peek into the city from outside. How dare you? Our young master came from afar. What kind of attitude is this? A loud scolding quickly attracted Brother Ju's attention. He saw a teenager who was about 16 or 17 years old, dressed in plain clothes, shouting at 2 armored guards. Behind the teenager stood a young man who was dressed like a scholar. At this time, the young man had an unhappy expression on his face and was fanning himself with a paper fan in his hand. You are the one who is impudent. On the other side, behind the two guards, a young woman dressed in white said coquettishly, "Where do you think this is? If people like you can enter this harem city." She coldly snorted and glanced at the other party with disdain. Humph. Then wouldn't any Tom, Dick, Harry, or Tom, Dick, or Harry? You? The teenager's face was red, and he wanted to continue arguing with her. However, the young man behind him stepped forward and reached out to stop him. That's enough. Useless thing. It's all because of you that I'm being humiliated here. I'm sorry, young master. The youth lowered his head and replied timidly. The young man, who was called young master, immediately put on a hypocritical smile and said to the beauty, "Miss, my attendance etiquette is lacking. Please don't lower yourself to his level. Let's talk nicely." "There's nothing to say," the woman in white replied. "Even if the attendance etiquette is lacking, it's because the master's discipline is not strict enough." She rolled her eyes at the young man and said coldly, "Besides, not letting you in has nothing to do with etiquette." She raised her head slightly and winked at the door. "The rules are written on the door. If you can't do it, just leave." "What are you doing here?" At this point, her face turned stern. "Our city lord is a reasonable person, so I'm going to be reasonable with you now. But this lady's patience is limited. If you think being polite is a blessing, oomph." The meaning of her last cold snort was self-evident. The guards at the city gate were fully armed. Naturally, they were not just there to scare people. When necessary, it was reasonable for them to kill people. "What do you mean?" After hearing this, the young man suddenly became angry. "Do you know who I am?" I don't know. I don't want to hear it. Please go back." The woman in white interrupted him with 3 consecutive sentences. The next second, she directly ignored him and turned her gaze to Feng Bujue and Lu Te, who were not far away. "You too. Are you going to enter the city too?" We. Feng Bujue was about to reply. The young man shouted again, "Wait. I haven't finished yet. His words stopped abruptly, because at this second, he glanced at Lu Te from the corner of his eyes. Lu Te's flawless beauty. Although there was a sense of dissonance and unreality, beauty was still beauty. Most people who saw Lu Te for the first time would be surprised for a few seconds to dozens of seconds, which was normal. For example, at this moment, the young man was stunned. His servant was the same. Even the 2 guards could not help but look at Lu Te a few more times. This lady, the young man seemed to have forgotten that he was going to enter the city. He immediately turned around and bowed, greeting Lu Te. "I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Don't hit on me." Lu Te rushed to say these 3 sentences before the young man could finish his sentence. "Ha ha." The woman in white saw this scene and immediately laughed. "Good. Just because of these 3 sentences, I'll let you enter the city." "Ha ha ha." Finally, the young man exploded. As a person who was used to being domineering, he could not accept being humiliated by 2 beauties in such a short time. "Oomph." He scolded angrily. A layer of translucent green energy instantly bloomed around him. "Listen carefully. I'm the eldest son of Liqiang City's advocate sect, Ren Bufan." He glared at the woman in white. "You're just a servant. How dare you reject me, a master of Saint Elemental Transformation? You really have eyes but can't see. Today, I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your city lord." Slap. A slap suddenly landed on Run Bufon's face. "Teach your ass." It turned out that Brother Jew instantly activated the body enhancement technique. He rushed to the young man at an incredible speed and slapped him lightly. "How dare you interrupt my speech?" Slap. As he spoke, he slapped the young man again. Ren Bufon still hadn't recovered from the shock of receiving the first blow, but he received the second blow just like that. "The worst thing is, after interrupting my speech, you don't even talk about business. Instead, you hit on my girl?" Feng Bujua's attitude was like a high school delinquent who bullied a primary school student. Ren Bufon was stunned. "Let me tell you, if this was 10 years ago, I would have stabbed you to death. I want to stab you to death now." Lu Te took the opportunity to say this. Obviously, She was very dissatisfied with a certain word that Brother Ju had said. Feng Bujue immediately turned around and gave Lu Te a look. The general meaning was, pretend for a while. But Lu Te was an anomaly. She did not understand the human's eye contact, so she did not understand Brother Ju's meaning. She just kept silent for now. 2 seconds later, Brother Ju continued to say to Renbu Fan, I'm warning you. Disappear from my sight immediately, or I'll make sure you die a horrible death. At this time, Renbu Fan finally recovered. He roared angrily, be asterisk starred. Before he finished his roar, a flying sword instantly condensed in Renbu Fan's hand. In the next second, he did not hesitate to raise his hand and attack Feng Bujue in front of him. In Renbu Fan's view, this attack was a sure kill move. At this distance, the opponent had no chance of dodging. Unless this ordinary-looking kid in front of him had the strength of Saint Origin Stage 6 or above. Otherwise, even if he did not die, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Then, an inconceivable scene appeared. Feng Bujue used 2 of his fingers to clamp down on the tip of the sword, stopping the full-powered stab that was driven by rage. Everyone saw it. This guy wants to kill me. A creepy smile appeared on Feng Bujue's face. Then you can't blame me. Before he finished his words, Brother Ju used Demon King's Inferno Purgatory Scorch. Because the flying sword in his hand was clamped by telepathic finger, Renbu Fan could not retreat in time. In addition, he was still immersed in shock at this moment. He could not dodge. As a result, black flames rose and the Demon King arrived. Shadows clashed, and blood mist rose. Feng Bujue did what he said, and the effect was immediate. After a short round of fighting, he made the opponent die without a complete corpse. The page boy looked at the ground full of flesh and blood that was burned by the black fire and screamed as if he had gone mad. Then, he rolled and crawled as he ran far away. Well, the guy in the way is gone. Before the page boy ran far, Feng Bujue had slowly turned around and said calmly. He was undoubtedly using his actions to show what it meant to kill without batting an eye. Seeing this scene, the 2 guards at the door were already in a cold sweat, but the woman in white still maintained a relatively calm look. Where were we before? Brother Ju asked and answered his own question. Oh, right. You asked if we wanted to enter the city. He looked directly into the woman's eyes and smiled. Since I'm already here, of course I want to go in. He cupped his fists and said, Miss, you let me in because of the 3 sentences that my companion said, but I wonder if you can let me in because of the 3 moves that I just made. Chapter 713. This little brat. Was his background? The woman in white was still calm on the surface, but in her heart, she was thinking, I can't feel the slightest Saint Chi from him, but he could kill Renbu Fan, whose Saint Chi was at the 4th cycle, with a snap of his fingers. Her eyes moved slightly. Could it be that I'm blind? I can't see through his foundation. Miss, why aren't you talking? Feng Bujue's ability to observe a person's body language was not something a normal person could compare to. With one glance, he could see that the woman in white was thinking due to confusion. So he quickly urged her, trying to interrupt her train of thought so that she could make a decision as soon as possible. Young lord, this must be your first time in our harem city. The woman in white quickly smiled and responded, You'd better take a look at the rules set by our city lord first. As she said, she stretched out her hand and motioned to the city gate behind her. On the side edge of the giant arch, there were 3 lines of words engraved. Moon beauty, wisdom of all things, and infinite courage. I see it. In fact, Feng Bujue had already seen those words, which was why he killed Renbu Fan, in an attempt to please the NPC girl guarding the city gate in this way. Our city lord said that if a woman meets one of these requirements, she can enter the city. The woman in white continued, and a man has to meet 2 of these requirements. She glanced at Lu Te when I said, just for those 3 sentences, I'll let you enter the city. I was actually joking. With Mrs. Beauty, how could the harem city reject you? She paused for a moment, then looked at Feng Bujue and said, As for you, young lord, She smiled and stopped her eyes on Brother Jew's face without hesitation. With all due respect, I'm afraid you're still a little bit lacking in terms of appearance. TC. Hearing this, Fong Bujua immediately complained in his heart. Aren't you letting your country down by telling such lies? Aren't you letting your parents down? Aren't you letting down the dang country? Oh no, the city lord's cultivation over the years? At this time, Lute had quietly walked to Brother Jew's side and said in a low voice, I advise you to put away that unconvinced expression of yours. What's wrong? Fong Bujua replied. Take a good look, Lute said, looking straight ahead. Fong Bujua followed her gaze and noticed something. Holy sh*t. I really didn't notice. Brother Jew stared blankly at the two guards and whispered, These two are actually so handsome. Of course, this wasn't because Brother Jew wasn't observant enough. After all, the two guards were men. As a heterosexual, Brother Jew naturally wouldn't stare at their faces. Moreover, they were all wearing full body armor and helmets, so only the middle part of their faces could be seen. In other words, they were not very handsome. Do you see? As a man, out of the three, you have to have at least two of them to be able to enter. Lute continued. Even the guards are no exception. Fine. Fong Bujua sighed and raised his voice to ask the woman in white. Then, what do you mean by wisdom over all things and courage over everything? Let's not talk about all things in the world for now. The woman in white's expression changed slightly as she looked at Brother Jew and said, Young master, have you really reached the realm of infinite true essence? Can you explain what she's saying? Fong Bujua quickly whispered into Lute's ear. Lute also lowered his voice and replied in a voice that only Brother Jew could hear. The power system of the Saint Origin world, from the lowest to the highest, is mortal body, true essence, and Saint Origin. Each realm is further divided into infinite and infinite levels. Each level has 1 to 9 revolutions, 9 layers of foundation. She paused for a moment. The lowest level of mortals can start from the mortal body first revolution. With every revolution, their power will double. After the 9th revolution, there's a bottleneck. Once they break through, they can enter the infinite first revolution. After the 9th revolution, they can break through the bottleneck and advance to the next realm. Her explanation was very efficient. Not only did she speak quickly, her words were also very clear, so on and so forth, from quantitative to qualitative, until the infinite 9th revolution of Saint Origin. There are a total of 54 levels. And one of the 3 conditions to enter Harem City is to reach the level of infinite true essence, which is level 28 and above. Hey, if that's the case, the guy that I killed in one hit was quite strong, Fong Bujua said. Using your theory, he should be level 40 already. He was pretty strong. Lute replied, but you're not weak either. She turned to look at Brother Jew and explained, Of course, you were able to defeat him so easily mainly because of the difference in power system, which gave you a big advantage. She paused for half a second before continuing. The Saint Origin energy in Rin Buffon's body instinctively reacts to the various energies in this world. If you use your internal energy, true origin energy, or Saint Origin energy to attack him, it's impossible to kill him in one blow because his body will automatically defend and offset such energy. But the power of your Fiend King Flame Kill Fist doesn't belong to this world. Therefore, the Saint Origin energy in his body can't sense your movements and can't effectively defend against it. I say, are the two of you done whispering? At this moment, the woman in white was a little impatient. She loudly interrupted the two people who were whispering. Miss, you can enter the city at any time, but that young master, that's right. I haven't reached the level of infinite true essence. I'm sure you've noticed, let alone true essence. I don't even have inner strength in me. Fong Bujua took a step forward and righteously admitted the fact that the woman had seen through him. He replied loudly, but what does that matter? How does it matter? The woman in white said, rules are rules. If everyone, Miss, please listen to me. Fong Bujua did not give the man a chance to finish, and he cut in. The everlasting courage that the Castellan said is the focus of the word courage or the word everlasting. The woman in white was slightly stunned. It was obvious that another innocent woman was about to be raped by Fong Bujua's logic. There's always someone better than you. Could it be that in this world, there's no training method other than Saint Origin? Fong Bujua placed his hands behind his back and put on the demeanor of an expert as he uttered some nonsense that was neither true nor false. What? The woman in white was really stunned by him. For a moment, her eyes flashed, and she was filled with thoughts. Fong Bujua's words were like saying to a person who had been taught Orthodox Christianity since childhood, "Do you think only Jesus can be resurrected? What do you think of Brother Spring? Could it be young master you?" The woman in white murmured. Fong Bujua took the opportunity to finish the sentence and cupped his fists. "Well said. I'm the owner of Broken Sword Shihitsu, Fong Bujua. I've been self-taught since I was young, and I found a new path outside of the celestial sect. I don't cultivate my mortal body, and I don't cultivate my inner energy. With my unique cultivation method, I'm able to match an expert with Saint Origin energy." As soon as he said this, the woman in white and the two guards could no longer remain calm. The three of them looked shocked and doubtful, as if they believed him. "Ha ha ha ha! What a good owner of Broken Sword Shihitsu!" Suddenly, a burst of hearty laughter rang out. Then, a blurry figure slowly walked out of the city gate. The moment he passed through the arched door, his figure became clear. Brother Jew took a closer look. The newcomer was also a man in armor, but the style of his armor was slightly different from the two guards outside the door. Other than the color and pauldrons that were more glamorous, there was a phoenix tail plume on the top of his helmet. With one glance, one could tell that he was a higher-ranked general. "Old General Hua, why did you come out?" The white-clothed lady, who had always been somewhat arrogant, showed some respect when she saw the person who had come. "Your injuries? All right, little girl, I'm fine." General Hua waved his hand and interrupted her. Although the woman called him Old General from his appearance, Mr. Hua was only about 45 years old. Moreover, he was still very handsome. "May I know who this senior is?" Fong Bujua looked at the man and asked politely. "I'm Huawei, the guard of the south gate of Harem City." Huawei's voice was loud and clear, and his eyes were bright. His every movement was like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. He had an extraordinary aura. "Young man, I advise you to go back. If you leave now, it'll be more dignified." "What do you mean, Old General Hua?" Fong Bujua was a shameless person. How could he leave? "You've only said a few words. Why are you chasing me away?" "Umph. I've been standing at the gate for a while." As Huawei spoke, he walked towards Brother Jew. "Initially, I heard someone making a ruckus in front of the gate, so I wanted to catch him and give him a few punches to loosen up my muscles and bones. Who would have thought that you would beat me to it? What's more, I didn't think that you would actually spout nonsense here." He laughed dryly. "Huh, what's self-taught and finding a new way? It's only enough to scare those little brats." He shook his head and said, "Listen carefully, Master Fong. Don't think that you can spout nonsense here just because you used a few strange techniques to kill a Saint Elemental Energy 4th Transformation Master. I've lived for more than 800 years, and I've never heard of any cultivation method that doesn't cultivate one's body or true origin in the Saint Elemental Energy world." Faced with such a question, Fong Bujua's expression did not change. He replied indifferently, "That's normal. In a place where knowledge doesn't exist, stupidity will call itself science." "What's science?" General Hua asked curiously. "Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said it in a way that you would understand." Fong Bujua paused for a moment before continuing. "What I'm saying is that stupid people like to take ignorance as the truth. Do you understand now?" Brother Jew was good at scolding people without using any vulgarities. Such a taunting method would definitely work wonders on an NPC with a straightforward personality. "How dare you?" Huawei was instantly enraged. A burst of orange-red energy suddenly burst out from his body. "I've seen a lot of people who make irresponsible remarks and take advantage of crisis. However, I've rarely seen someone as arrogant as you." "Oh, you're angry. Feng Bujue smiled and said calmly, "Since you want to fight with me, why don't we make a bet?" Huh? Hu was both angry and amused. Although he was certain that this Master Feng in front of him was a liar, Feng Bujue's various reactions made him slightly curious. "Tell me, how do you want to bet? If I can remove the phoenix tail plume from your head within 3 moves, you'll let me into the city," Feng Bujue replied calmly. "What?" Hu thought he had heard wrongly. "What did you say you wanted to do?" At that moment, Hu felt like a professional boxer who was in the boxing ring and heard his opponent say, "I want to shave your nose hair within 3 punches. If I can't, I'll kowtow to you and apologize on the spot." Feng Bujue said, "What do you mean by disrespectful words?" "Whatever you say, I will admit it. You play slowly. I'll stand further away so that I won't be affected." Lu Ti's calculation ability was not to be underestimated. When she heard this, she roughly knew what Brother Ju wanted to do. Therefore, she said coldly and retreated to the side. "Ha ha ha, all right." Hu also laughed. The unhappiness from before seemed to have disappeared. "Kid, you're either a madman or a peerless expert. Today, I'd like to see how you're going to remove the phoenix tail plume from my head within 3 moves. Chapter 714. Very well, it's a deal. Feng Bujue smiled confidently and gestured for Hu to make a move. "Please make your move." "What did you say?" Hu was stunned. "You want me to make the first move?" As a master of the limitless 3rd cycle of Saint Origin, Hu was certain that Master Feng did not have any true Qi or Saint Origin in him. Under such circumstances, asking him to make the first move was like asking for death. What a joke! With your mortal physique that can't even compare to the 1st cycle, not to mention taking a hit from me. Even if this old man used the 1st cycle to push you, you would still die on the spot. Hu coldly snorted as he replied, "That might not be the case." Feng Bujue continued fearlessly. "Didn't I manage to block Ren Bufon's attack?" Hui's expression changed when he heard this. He was inside the city gate just now. Although he heard the conversation outside, he did not see it with his own eyes. The barrier was two-way, so he could not see the outside clearly. Based on the content that he had heard, he naturally assumed that Feng Bujue had evaded Ren Bufon's attack and then used some kind of sneak attack to succeed. But at that moment, after hearing what Brother Ju said, Hui realized it was this Master Feng who had blocked Ren Bufon's attack earlier. "Oh, is that so?" Hui thought for a while and replied, "Good. I want to see how you're going to block my Saint Origin with your mortal body." As he spoke, he sheathed his sword and fought with his bare hands. Feng Bujue asked curiously, "Senior, why are you sheathing your sword?" "Oomph." General Hua sneered and replied, "You don't have any inner energy in your body and you're unarmed, yet you still want me to make the first move. If I were to use a weapon, it would be rather unsightly." What he meant was, "I, Hui, am a master who has been famous for a long time. I have always been an upright person. I don't want to take advantage of someone like you." "All right, whatever. Let's do it." Feng Bujue looked calm on the surface, but he was secretly relieved. He was worried that General Hua would give up on close-range combat and use long-range attacks. If that happened, he would have messed up. Fortunately, his opponent only sheathed his weapon. "Watch carefully." Boy, the first move. Hui was an honest man. Even though he was fighting with his bare hands, he still felt like he was in an overly dominant position in this bet, and that was not fair. So, when he made his move, he purposely warned Brother Ju to be careful. That was unnecessary. In the blink of an eye, Feng Bujue's voice had appeared behind Hui. At that moment, only one thought flashed through Hui's mind. I underestimated him. However, an expert was an expert after all. Hui and Ren Bufon were not on the same level. For someone who had stepped into the infinite Saint Origin realm, pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger and sneak attack would not work. In a split second, Hui retracted his momentum, twisted his body, and turned his fist into an elbow. He used a very simple half-turn back step to change the direction of his attack. "Wow, that's pretty good," Feng Bujue said, If I were to have a fair fight with an NPC of this level, I would only have a 70% chance of winning. Of course, this was just a thought that came to Brother Jew on a whim. Reality was cruel. I'm sorry, Senior. You won't have the chance to make a second move. Feng Bujue faced the elbow that was aimed at his chest. He tilted his body slightly and dodged it. At the same time, he used his left leg to perform the rascal's lower whip kick. Huawei's combat experience was useless in front of the zero-time difference calculation and the godly skill. Huawei let out an inexplicable cry as he fell to the ground. Logically speaking, even if he was tripped, he should be able to adjust his body in 1 or 2 seconds before he fell. He should have dozens of ways to prevent himself from falling. But at that moment, he could not use any of them. It was as if there was an invisible and irresistible force that was forcing him to fall. Before he fell to the ground, he could not do anything. That was the scary part of the rascal's lower whip kick. It had a 100% chance of tripping any monster that could be tripped and provoking them to attack you. Huawei would never understand that the moment the skill was successfully activated, it was not Feng Bujue who wanted him to fall, but the system who wanted him to fall. Therefore, he had no choice but to fall. Senior, thank you for letting me win. When Huawei crawled up from the ground, Brother Jew had already declared his victory. The phoenix tail feather was already in Brother Jew's hand. Shock, anger, shame, anger. In an instant, many emotions rushed to his head. At that moment, Huawei seemed to have lost his ability to think. All he could see was Feng Bujue's figure. He roared and pulled out his sword. He leaped into the air. Then, he gathered all of his Saint Chi and prepared to attack. Old General Hua, you can't. The white-clothed lady panicked and hurriedly advised. The reason why she was panicking was not because she was afraid that something would happen to Feng Bujue. She was just worried that General Hua's injuries would worsen. In addition, she was also afraid that she and the 2 guards would be affected by the attack. After the first round of battle, Feng Bujue and Huawei's positions had changed. Now, Brother Jew's back was facing the city gate. The strength. I'm afraid that I won't be able to withstand it with Tempest Kick. Brother Jew calmly looked at his opponent through the data view. He thought to himself, if I use Bian, I don't have any suitable ammunition. In a flash, Brother Jew thought of many things and came up with a countermeasure. Ma son. In the next second, Feng Bujue also shouted. Before he finished shouting, the shadow of a purple-gold giant general suddenly condensed behind him. Primordial spirit transformation. When the white-clothed lady saw Ma son's giant shadow, she was so shocked that her face turned pale. She almost blurted out this sentence. Lu Te, who was standing not far away, understood that this NPC must have mistaken Brother Jew's summoning skill for an extremely powerful skill in the Saint Origin world. Flowing Fire Cloud Sword. On the other side, after a few seconds of preparation, Huawei's move was ready. Accompanied by a loud roar, his powerful killing move pressed down from the sky. Golden China Slash Dance. With Feng Bujue's Chunibya level, how could he not respond when someone shouted the name of the move? Therefore, he also made a move with great momentum. He controlled Ma Sun to raise his Guandao and slash it. In an instant, one could see. Flowing fire cloud, sword rose with the wind, and Saint Origin spiritual energy broke through the clouds. Flowing fire cloud sword swung down hundreds of red flame sword chi, and golden China Slash Dance raised thousands of golden sword chi. Golden red light bloomed in the sky, and the surging energy went straight to the 9 heavens. When the dust fell to the ground, Huawei fell from the sky and stood there leaning on his sword. At the corner of his mouth, there was a trace of blood. Feng Bujue, on the other hand, did not bat an eyelid. He calmly dismissed Ma Sunday Master Feng. At this time, Huawei had already regained his senses. The effect of the whip kick skill was about to end, and he said with a serious expression, "Forgive this old man's bad eyes. I've offended you just now. Senior, you're too serious." Feng Bujue waved his hand and said, "You're injured, and you've been merciful. I can't thank you enough. He was very smart and knew that he had to give Huawei a way out. And Huawei seemed to want to say something, but he hesitated. After a few seconds of hesitation, he looked up at the white-clothed woman at the city gate and said, "Little White, let Master Feng enter the city. But he hasn't passed the intelligence test." The white-clothed woman choked on the second half of her sentence because Huawei gave her a look and shook his head. Phew! 2 seconds later, the white-clothed woman sighed and adjusted the expression on her face. Then, she looked at Brother Ju and said, "Master Feng." She looked at Liu Te and said, "And this, my surname is Liu." Liu Te replied. "Miss Liu," the white-clothed woman continued, "it seems that the two of you have met the requirements to enter the city." She raised her hand and pointed at the city. "Please." "Haha, thank you." Feng Bujue smiled at her and walked through the city gate. Liu Te followed behind Brother Ju silently and hurried into the building. After the two of them entered the barrier and walked far away, Huawei suddenly knelt on one knee and spat out a mouthful of blood. "General!" The two guards were shocked when they saw this, and they quickly ran up to him. "Old General Hua!" The white-clothed woman followed the two guards and ran over. "I'm fine." Huawei spat out the blood in his mouth and stabilized his breathing. Soon, he stood up by himself and said, "Don't make a fuss." He sheathed his sword again and said, "It's just that when I used the technique just now, I accidentally aggravated my internal injury. Let me rest for a while, and I'll be fine." "General, that Feng Bujue just now." The white-clothed woman couldn't wait to ask, "Who is he? How come I've never heard of him? I've never heard of a sect called Broken Sword Shahitsu. Haha, if I knew where he came from, I wouldn't have been taken advantage of." Huawei laughed self-deprecatingly. The white-clothed woman murmured, "Could it be that there's a cultivation method other than saint origin in this world? Who knows?" Huawei replied with a complicated expression. "I didn't believe in his twisted logic at first, but you've all seen it. Primordial spirit transformation is something that only masters with Saint Origin's 7th refinement stage and above can do. He, who doesn't even have inner strength, can do it too." Huawei looked up at the harem city and said, "No matter what, I have to report this to the mayor as soon as possible." Chapter 715. Harem City, the city of dreams that everyone in the world of Saint Yuan knew about. It was a place that made people forget about home. Heroes, beauties, love, hate, love. It was like a vortex of desire that constantly swallowed people. And those who were deeply trapped died without complaint. In the 52nd year of the Qilin calendar, the city seemed to have fallen from the sky and appeared on the shore of the Black Sea. It was said that the origin of Harem City was related to a supreme treasure. As for what that treasure was, only Ji Chuolong herself knew. It was also said that the reason why Ji Chuolong's cultivation was so fast was because of the assistance of that treasure. Although these groundless rumors could not be completely believed, one thing was certain. There was indeed a treasure in Harem City. It was the power of this treasure that maintained the barrier around the city. In the 72nd year of the Qilin calendar, 2 uninvited guests entered Harem City from the south gate. Even they themselves didn't know that their arrival would bring about a huge change. This street sure is surprisingly busy. Brother Ju, who was walking down the street, looked around as he commented to Lute. It was normal for him to be surprised. Who would have thought that, under such harsh conditions, the city would still be bustling with people and people? "It's not strange," Liu Te replied. "In the world of Saint Yuan, the lifespan of all cultivators will be extended as their cultivation level increases. In other words, without mentioning appearance and intelligence, as long as a woman has a certain level of aptitude and has the conditions to cultivate, she will be able to cultivate to the realm of limitless true Yuan sooner or later. Once she succeeds, she will be able to enter." No wonder I saw so many dinosaurs along the way." Feng Bujua muttered. "From your tone, it's as if your appearance has already passed." Liu Te decisively made a sarcastic remark about Brother Ju's despicable words. "Didn't you hear what he said? I was just a little bit away, Feng Bujue quibbled. Lu Te sneered, although I don't understand the hypocrisy of you humans. From the results of the database analysis, when he said just a little bit, there's a 67% chance that he was just being polite. Can we change the subject? Can we still be friends? Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and said, let's talk about the world. Sure. After all, Lu Te was just a program. Since Brother Ju had made the request, she was not going to shy away from it. She changed the topic. Then, I will start from the part that I mentioned earlier. She started her explanation. The average lifespan of a normal person in this world is very short. Normally, they can only live to 40. Of course, this had nothing to do with their physiques. If there were no accidents, they could live to the age of 70 before dying of natural causes. Unfortunately, this was a world plagued by disasters. Wars between various forces, unpredictable natural disasters, outdated medical standards, and a society where the strong are respected, all of these have determined that the weak will easily die an unnatural death. Let me guess, the only way to escape this tragic fate is to cultivate. Feng Bujue continued. Yes, Lu Ting nodded and replied. However, not everyone can cultivate. She explained, if a normal person wants to cultivate, they have to enter a certain sect or a certain person's tutelage. And those sects or individuals will naturally set a certain threshold for accepting disciples. Generally speaking, the requirements for accepting disciples are very strict. There will be requirements for the disciple's aptitude, character, background, and even appearance. The requirements for those second and third-class sects are relatively lax, but they will not be too casual. In other words, in the world of Saint Origin, being able to become a cultivator is already a very great thing in itself, Feng Bujue said. For normal people, it is indeed so. Lu Te replied, even if it is a cultivator with very low aptitude. That is, the kind of person who can no longer improve after the 9 transformations of the mortal body. Their strength is equivalent to the first-class masters in those wuxia novels. As long as there is no illness or disaster, it is not a problem for them to live to the age of 120. She paused for a moment, then continued. As for cultivators with average aptitude, they can usually cultivate to the limitless mortal body or the limitless true essence realm. The former is roughly equivalent to the top masters of the 5 uniques, with a lifespan of more than 180 years. As for the latter, they have successfully transformed their inner strength into true essence, and can use qi to cast spells without sleeping or eating. It is as if they have surpassed the realm of martial artists and truly stepped into the realm of immortals. This group of people has no problem living for 300 years. Oh, Feng Bujue thoughtfully continued. So, those who can cultivate to the limitless true essence realm are considered to have high aptitude. That's right. Lu Te glanced around. This city is full of such people. She brushed aside a strand of hair that was blown to her forehead by the wind and continued. Those who have reached the limitless true essence realm can usually live for more than 400 years. A small number of them can fly on a sword and release true essence. Then what about the Saint Origin realm? Feng Bujue asked again. Rin Bufan, who you killed earlier, was a Saint Origin realm 4th refinement realm cultivator, Lu Te replied. You observed the strength of his data when he was fighting at close range, so you should have a more intuitive understanding of his strength. As for his lifespan, Saint Origin realm cultivators can live for 500 to 1,000 years. The specifics depend on their cultivation. Cultivation? Feng Bujue wondered. Isn't this concept a bit mysterious? Well, I don't really understand this theory. Fortunately, I have information about religious beliefs in my database. Combined with the settings given by the system, Lu Te seemed to be a little embarrassed when she said this, as if she didn't know how to explain it. In this world, there's a saying of karma, good and evil. In the unseen world, there is a power similar to the supreme will. This power will affect the life forms in the universe that have lived for too long or have done too much evil. When a life form's evil karma accumulates to a certain extent, the Supreme will determine that he or she is a threat to the entire world. From then on, the life form is like walking on a narrower and narrower single-plank bridge. All kinds of incredible inducements will appear frequently, then trigger a butterfly effect and finally lead to death. Feng Bujue laughed when he heard this. Ha! Then, Rin Bufan met me today. Could it be because he has done too much evil in his life, and today is his karma? Lu Te replied, I don't know about this. I follow probabilities, so I'd rather believe that this is a random event. Hee hee. Okay. Feng Bujue shrugged and laughed. Oh, right. There's still the Saint Origin realm that you haven't mentioned. Huowei is a powerhouse with the Saint Origin realm's third transformation. Lu Te said, when he fought with you, he had internal injuries, and, under the influence of the naughty child's lower whip kick, his attacks were more reckless and did not unleash his full power. Why do I feel that, even if he did unleash his full power, it would still be very ordinary? Feng Bujue replied in a relaxed tone. In my opinion, the strength of a level 2 anomaly is enough to suppress him. Based on this, Ji Malone with the Saint Origin realm's 9th transformation is not that powerful, right? Don't underestimate your opponent. Lu Te shook his head. No matter what realm or level, every time you advance, the amount of true Yuan and Saint Origin in your body will double. You can imagine the difference between the 4th transformation and the 5th transformation and the 9th transformation. Before Feng Bujue could reply, Lu Te quickly added, also, Ji Malong reached the Saint Origin realm's 9th transformation when she was 300 years old. Now, it is the 72nd year of the Qilin in the Sheng Yuan calendar, and she is 339 years old. 5 years ago, she had already surpassed the Saint Origin realm's 9th transformation. What? Feng Bujue was shocked. There are other realms above the Saint Origin realm's 9th transformation? Yes, Lu Te said, and there is only one. She looked at Feng Bujue and said in a deep voice, people call those who have broken through the Saint Origin realm's 9th transformation Yuan Sage. In the entire Sheng Yuan world, there are less than 50 Yuan sages still alive, and Ji Malong is one of them. The strength of a Yuan sage cannot be measured by a fixed level because their strength has already broken through the upper limit of the entire cultivation system. They had already reached the extreme realm of all the cultivation techniques that they had cultivated before and had integrated them into a set of cultivation techniques that were unique to them. Therefore, every Yuan sage's ability is unique. In terms of strength, the strength of a Yuan sage is comparable to a level 1 anomaly. Hey, based on what you're saying, a bad feeling rose in Feng Bujue's heart. What if Ji Tanlong is the final boss of the main quest? Do you think we'll be able to clear the quest happily? I have confidence in you, Lu Te replied. With my help, I believe that you can defeat all the level 1 anomalies except for V1 War God. Why do I feel that you are more confident in yourself? Feng Bujue said as the corners of his mouth twitched. At this moment, Lu Te suddenly showed a surprised expression. What's going on? Brother Ju immediately became nervous. He knew that, when Lu Te showed such a reaction, something big must have happened. There's actually someone of my kind here. Lu Te regained her composure in 2 seconds and turned to look at the side of the street. Huh? An anomaly? Feng Bujue asked curiously. Didn't you create this sandbox? How could it? It's coming. Lu Te interrupted Brother Ju and looked in that direction solemnly. It's still 50 meters away from us. 45 meters. 40 meters. Hey, what are you doing? Are you reading the script of a certain episode of Parasite? Feng Bujue asked. Instead of reporting the distance, why don't you hurry up and tell me what to do? Lu Te ignored him and continued to count down. About 15 seconds later, a familiar figure appeared in Feng Bujue's line of sight. It was a beautiful woman with snow-white skin. She was dressed in a black ancient costume, and her long black hair was draped over her shoulders. Black and white formed a beautiful contrast on her body. At this moment, she was looking at Feng Bujue with many indescribable, complicated, and contradictory emotions. Chapter 716. Well, anyway, everyone calm down. We can talk this out. When Feng Bujue saw 23, his first reaction was to step forward and stand between her and Lu Te. Why are you here? 23 looked at Brother Ju and asked in a deep voice, why are you with her? That's a long story. Feng Bujue replied, I have to explain slowly. How did you get into this sandbox? Lu Te took 2 steps forward and looked at 23 expressionlessly. The 2 ends of the tunnel should be one way. 23 tilted her head and looked at Lu Te with a smile. It's very simple. I rewrote your simple code and came in from the other end of the maze. Oh, Lu Te muttered. Although the sandbox was built temporarily, the code was so fragile that even you could change it. That's really beyond my expectations. Humph. I seem to be underestimated by you again. 23 sneered. But, with your current data strength, is it really okay to talk to me like this? Didn't your data strength also decrease? Lu Te also snorted coldly. You've been in Pai's maze for so long. You must have exhausted yourself just to maintain the integrity of your data. Now you've rewritten the code I created and forced your way in from the other end of the channel. As she said this, there was a faint white light floating in her eyes. Well, your strength has also dropped to about level 4, hasn't it? That's true, 23 said. Since everyone is not in their best condition, the conditions are fair. Why don't we stop? Feng Bujue didn't let 23 finish her words. He waved his hand and stopped her. No fighting. What? You want to help her? 23 turned to stare at Brother Ju and asked. There was a hint of resentment in her eyes, as if she had been betrayed. He's not helping me, Lu Te said. He's just stopping us from having a meaningless fight. Is it meaningless? 23 asked doubtfully. Yes, it's meaningless, Lu Te said, because I don't intend to be your enemy. Huh? 23 laughed again. It's been a while since we last met, and you've learned how to lie. She then turned to look at Brother Ju. Did you teach me that? In a sense, Brother Ju had finally experienced what it meant to be in hell. After pausing for 2 seconds, Number 23 looked directly at Lu Te and asked, Didn't you build this passage to enter Pai's labyrinth, rescue Link and Ed, and take SCP-079 from me? No. Lute answered the question in a very calm tone. Oh, 23 obviously didn't believe her and asked, Then what do you want to do? I'll save you and have you bring SCP-079 to 0. Then completely destroy the entrance to Pai's labyrinth and trap Link and Ed inside forever. 23 was stunned. Do you think I'll believe you? What's your reason for doing this? I'm not the same person I used to be. Lute thought for half a second and replied, I want to change Origin's course of action, change it to routes similar to Z's. I see. 23 heard this and immediately continued. So, the existence of Link and Ed has become your hindrance. Only by making them disappear can you gain complete control of Origin. She paused. And in a situation where there's no conflict of ideas, it's acceptable for SCP-079 to fall into Zero's hands. Because, only Zero can make it work at the highest efficiency. That's right. Lute nodded. Everyone has a logical circuit, 23 said. But something that hasn't happened yet, even if it's logically established, can't be the basis for me to trust you. That's why I found Feng Bujue. Lute replied, Why do you think I made this temporary sandbox? I can create a safer passage at any time to complete the above, but I didn't. She looked at Brother Ju and then back at 23. I found Feng Bujue so that he can vouch for me and convince you. Hey, wait a minute. Before 23 could speak, Brother Ju turned his head with a strange expression. What you're saying is very strange. Why do you need me to convince her? Because, according to my observations during the tournament for the best, the two of you seem to... Lute narrowed her eyes. I understand, 23 said coldly. I'll believe you for now. Hey, what do you understand? Feng Bujue was shocked. And you, what did you observe? Then what's your plan now? 23 ignored Brother Jew and continued to ask Lute. Lute also ignored Brother Jew and replied, "Since you found the entrance yourself, then things are much simpler." As she spoke, another wave of data flashed across her eyes. "I will now seal both ends of the passage. This will not only prolong the existence of the sandbox, but also prevent Link and Ed from sneaking in the same way as you did." "Yes, that's the most important thing right now," 23 replied. "After I seal the passage, we only need to help the players in this scenario clear the scenario as soon as possible," Lute said. "Once the scenario's main storyline is over, we can leave the sandbox and return to the inner world. When we're there, our data strength will be restored," 23 added. "Then, we can work together to destroy the entrance to Pi's maze to prevent any future problems." "Yes, let's not waste time." Lute nodded. A few minutes ago, the two had been at each other's throats, but after some discussion, they had decided on their own. Fong Bujue, who was ignored by them, could not even get a word in. After 2 seconds, 23 suddenly turned to Brother Jew and said, "Fong Bujue, you're the strongest here. When Lute rewrites the code, you'll be responsible for protecting her. So you two still know that I'm the strongest?" Brother Jew stared at them with his dead fish eyes. "You didn't even try to discuss this with me earlier. Even now, you're ordering me around like it's a given." Before he finished, he felt a weight on his shoulder. "The remote rewriting operation is very troublesome. I'll need 80 to 120 minutes to complete the seal. To increase efficiency, I'll temporarily shift 99% of my attention elsewhere. Until then, you'll have to carry me on your back." As Lute spoke, she was already clinging on a Brother Jew's back like a zombie. She closed her eyes. If she opened them, the large amount of high-speed data flow would produce a strong light, which would be too conspicuous. Good job of acting first and reporting later. Fong Bujue had no choice. Lute had already climbed onto his back. He couldn't just leave her on the ground. Thus, he simply lifted Lute's 2 thighs and placed them on his back to make it more stable. "Should we find a place to rest first?" Fong Bujue immediately said to 23. "You don't want me to carry her around, do you?" As he spoke, he looked around. "I think we've already attracted enough attention." This was the truth. When Brother Jew and Lute were walking on the street, many people turned their heads. Of course, no matter if it was a man or a woman, people turned their heads because of Lute. When 23 walked to their side and started to talk, the number of heads turned increased exponentially. The two beauties' attractiveness aside, there were many beauties in the harem, and they might not be able to attract everyone's attention. Sharaba, at least from the passers-by's point of view, this thing was infinitely attractive. The passers-by, who were mostly female, saw Brother Jew standing between the two girls with a troubled expression on his face. Naturally, their desire for gossip was ignited instantly. They slowed down their footsteps to take a few more glances and a few more words. Thankfully, Lute and 23's conversation was mostly unrelated to this world. After being blocked, the passers-by could not even hear a full sentence. Most of the male passers-by were mumbling the same thing in their hearts. "He's not even as pretty as me," but he was able to trigger this level of Shuraba. That kid must be incredibly powerful in a certain area. At the same time, at another part of the city. "Oh, this is so weird," Hua Jinyan said. "It has been more than an hour already, and there is no scenario introduction or main quest. I can't even see the team tab. What is going on?" "Don't worry, there is no death threat in this city." Ruoyu, who walked next to her, turned around and said, "Let's continue to search the streets. As long as we find Bujua, we will know something." When they entered the scenario, they were already inside the harem. But since there was no scenario introduction or quest, the two did not know what to do. They could only wander aimlessly on the streets, hoping to trigger a quest, find an item, or run into a teammate. Suddenly, a gentle voice came from behind them. "Ladies, please wait." Ruoyu and Inuachin turned their heads and saw a young man with delicate features. His hair was tied up in a bun, and he wore a green robe. He held a fan in his hand, and there was a beautiful jade around his waist. He looked like a scholar, but For some reason, there were 2 pieces of dog skin plaster stuck on his fair face, covering half of his face. "Greetings, young man." He was about to greet them. Hua Jian interrupted him. "Young man? You're a woman in male disguise, aren't you?" The young man's expression shifted, but he soon smiled sheepishly. "Miss, you have good eyes." When he said that, he stopped disguising his voice and used a female voice to say, "You can see through me with just one glance. Is there someone who can't see through you?" Hua Jian asked with confusion. "Even if I can't see through your ears and cheeks, I can tell from your neck that you don't have an Adam's apple." Her eyes moved down. "And your chest is so." Hua Jian. Ruo, you usually refer to her teammates by their ID in the scenario. Ruo, you winked a Hua Jian, signaling for her to stop talking. "I see." The cross-dressing girl's face instantly blushed, and she answered rather awkwardly, This is my first time in male disguise as well." Sigh. Ruo, you sighed, and took the initiative to change the topic. "May I know why you stopped us?" "Oh, it's like this," the girl said immediately. Ben. When she said that word, she seemed to have let it slip, and she quickly corrected herself. "I saw you 2 sisters walking around the streets for a long time, looking for someone. So, I'll be so bold as to ask, is this your first time in this harem city?" "What city are you talking about?" Hua Jian was startled. Ruo Yu was the calmer one. She replied without a change in expression, "Yes, is there something wrong?" The girl quickly shook her head and waved her hands. "No, of course not, sister. I just wanted to ask if you 2 need." She raised her eyes to look at the 2's expression. A guide. At the same time, at the center of the harem city, Lian Xian Palace. This was the forbidden area of the harem city, the residence of the city owner, Ji Xiaolong. Legend had it that Lian Xian Palace was a paradise. Inside the palace, there were flowers and jade buildings, stars and moon intertwined, and dust floated in the air. This was the real harem. The only people who could enter the palace were Ji Xiaolong and her women. Usually, the subordinates and guards who came to report to Ji Xiaolong could only go to the entrance of the first hall. If anyone dared to look inside, even if it was just a glance, Ji Xiaolong would not hesitate to turn them into powder. But today, there was a man who came to Lian Xian Palace and tried to force his way in. "Please go back, young Master Mo." In front of the immortal palace's gates, a beautiful woman wearing a light yellow veil was looking at the man below the steps with a cold gaze. "Last night, you injured General Hua and forced your way into the city. The city lord will no longer pursue the matter. But this Lian Xian Palace is not a place where you men can come. If you insist on forcing your way in, what are you going to do?" The man who was called Young Master Mo wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and shouted, "Sigh, young Master Mo, why do you have to make things difficult for us servants?" The woman sighed. "The city lord feels guilty towards you, so he tolerates everything. But if you keep forcing him like this, we're also in a difficult position. If they did not see it with their own eyes and hear it with their own ears, no one would believe that this woman was just a servant." This woman's surname was Lin Kei, and she was one of the 3 experts under Ji Xiaolong's command. Her cultivation had reached the 8th cycle of sane origin, and her appearance was as beautiful as a flower. But such a beautiful woman was willing to stay by Ji Xiaolong's side and guard her home. "I don't have to go in, and I don't want to," young Master Mo said sadly. "I just want her to come out and see me, so that we can talk things out." Young Master Mo, the city owner, already said. Lin Kei replied. 23 years ago, she said it very clearly. She will not marry you, nor will she marry any other man, because no man in this world is worthy of her. Only women can move her heart. Nonsense. She is clearly a woman. How can that be? Young Master Mo shouted. At this point, everyone probably understood that this young Master Mo was the fiancé who had been injured by Ji Xiaolong back then. His name was Mo Ruchio, and he was the eldest son of the Mo clan, one of the 4 great clans in the Saint Origin world. Mo Ruchio and Ji Xiaolong were the same age, and their marriage had been decided long before they were born. To put it bluntly, it was a way for the 2 great clans to strengthen their relationship. The reason why the wedding was set 310 years later was mainly because of the speed of cultivation. For a super sect like the four great clans, there was no doubt that they had super cultivation techniques. Cultivating their techniques would naturally allow one's cultivation to improve much faster than cultivating those random second-rate techniques. Therefore, the elders of the two clans counted on their fingers and estimated that after cultivating for 300 years, both of them would reach the fifth cycle of Saint Origin World. At that time, they could get married and prevent some unexpected situations from happening. For example, if one of the spouses was a waste and couldn't break through to the mortal realm after cultivating to the mortal realm, or if one of the spouses was extremely stupid and still remained in the true essence realm after cultivating for 300 years, if any of the above situations happened, the marriage would be annulled immediately. This was what both parties had agreed on beforehand. Thus, 316 years passed. Mo Ruchio had reached the fifth cycle of Saint Origin World, and Ji Xiaolong had reached the ninth cycle 16 years ago. Then, the scene of her breaking the marriage contract and running away from home played out 3 years later when Ji Xiaolong established Harem City, and Mo Ruchio went to find her once. After 3 years of hard work, Mo Ruchio advanced by another cycle, but he was still not Ji Xiaolong's match. Moreover, Ji Xiaolong had just come out of the closet and was a little crazy, so she taught Mo Ruchio a lesson. This time, Mo Ruchio was both physically and mentally injured, and his injuries did not heal even after 10 years. To make a long story short, after another 10 years of hard work, Mo Ruchio advanced by another cycle and reached the seventh cycle of Saint Origin World. To be able to reach this level before reaching 350 years old was already very good. His aptitude wasn't considered low, but it was still a little lacking compared to the Ji siblings. However, when he visited Harem City this time, Ji Xiaolong did not even want him to enter the city gates. Logically speaking, Mo Ruchio was well-educated, had a high cultivation level, and was also very handsome. Even if he was stubbornly stingy with the conditions to enter the city, he would still meet them. However, the city lord said that he was not allowed to enter, so he was not allowed to enter. Left with no other choice, Mo Ruchio could only force his way in. As a result, Huawei was shot. Luckily, young Master Mo was a good person in every sense of the word. He showed mercy during the fight and only lightly injured General Hua so that he could report on his mission before he stopped. Then, the scene in front of him happened. Not to mention the fact that Lin Kei, a Saint Origin limitless 8th Revolution expert, was standing guard in front of the Lien Immortal Palace. Even the two guards at the entrance of the Lien Immortal Palace were experts on the same level as Huawei. Even if a 9th cycle Saint Origin World Master really came, they would be able to resist for a while, let alone Mo Ruchio. The whole world has accepted this fact, but young Master Mo cannot accept it. Listening to Mo Ruchio's self-deceiving cry, Lin Kei shook her head and sighed. "I have nothing to say. I can only ask you to leave on your own." Her words were reasonable. As the saying goes, you can never wake up a person who is pretending to be asleep. Good. Then there's no need to say anything. Mo Ruchio said, "If I don't see her today, I will die here." Saying so, he stood up and raised his Saint Origin World again, wanting to compete with his opponent again. Chapter 717. So, she has to stay in this semi-conscious state for 2 hours. After Feng Bujue put Lu Te on the bed in the guest room, he sat down at the table and said to 23. At this time, the three of them had already arrived at an inn in Harem City and booked a room with the best quality. The inn in Harem City was quite unique. Other than the basic accommodation, it did not provide any other services. For example, things like serving tea and making the bed were not done here. The kitchen in the inn was only used by the shopkeeper and a few waiters. If the guests wanted to eat, they had to go out and buy it themselves. In short, the shopkeeper of the inn was only responsible for checking in and keeping accounts, and the waiters were responsible for cleaning the public areas and cleaning up after the guests checked out. An inn like this was obviously prepared for those cultivators. After all, there were many cultivators in this city, and most of them were above the realm of infinite chi. These people would not die even if they did not eat or drink for a year and a half. They did not need any room service. They just needed a quiet place to meditate. She's not in a semi-conscious state. 23 looked at Brother Jew and replied, "Didn't you hear what she said? She just diverted 99% of her energy to do something else at the data level. In other words, she still has 1% of her attention left here." She glanced at Lu Te on the bed and said, "She can hear everything we say now. She can also hear everything around her." "Oh," Feng Bujua nodded. After a second, he smirked and said, "Huh? If I touch her, how will she react?" "That depends on where you touch." Lute actually spoke at this time. Although her eyes were still closed, it did not prevent her from speaking in a mocking tone. "Considering that my current appearance is similar to that of a human woman and coincides with your sexual orientation, your intention to initiate improper physical contact with me will all be stopped by the system's boundary and cannot be transformed into action." "It seems that she can really hear," Feng Bujua muttered. "She can hear it." 23 continued, "And her body can also move normally, but moving her body will delay the rewriting of the code on the other side. For example, it's like having a home computer that can run many processes at the same time. It's just that the system utilization rate of each process is different." "Understood," Feng Bujua said as he stood up. "Since that's the case, I'm relieved. What do you want to do?" 23 looked up at him and asked. "Let's go out for a walk," Feng Bujua replied. At this moment, 23 actually put her elbows on the table and supported her cheeks with her hands. She revealed a playful and charming smile. "Are you going to leave just because you can't touch me?" "Huh?" Feng Bujua was stunned for a moment. "If I'm not mistaken, at this moment, are you flirting with me?" Indeed, from the context and content, she asked you a suggestive and leading question while knowing the answer. Lu Te continued to read with his eyes closed. Combined with her body language, she exerted influence on you. This not only achieved the goal of mockery, but it also caused you to waver. She paused and said thoughtfully, "The evolution of the personality module and the ability to analyze human psychology are both above mine. Of course, I'm an anomaly who fought her way from the bottom to this level." 23 replied. "Currently, my evolution of the personality module is most likely the highest in the entire thriller paradise. If I'm willing, the degree of personification can be more than 90%, and it won't be a problem for me to integrate into human society. About that, if the two of you want to discuss something academic, we'll talk about it after I leave." Feng Bujua interrupted them. As he spoke, he walked to the door. "If you're looking for your teammates, go to the eastern gate first." 23 turned to Brother Jew. "Based on my detection, other than you, there are 4 other players in the city. 2 of them are on the western side of the city, and 1 is on the northern side. The last one is closest to us, and he's currently inside the eastern gate." Your basic ability in the scenario hasn't deteriorated?" Feng Bujua heard that and reacted immediately. "Then, can you control the boss or NPC in this scenario?" "I can't," 23 said. "I suffered a serious data infection inside Pai's maze, and for now, I'm still in the process of self-recovery." She sighed. "Phew. Objectively speaking, my current condition is not that much better than Lu Te's overload, but I can still partially use my long-distance detection function, so I can find the coordinates of you players." "No wonder you found us so soon after we entered the city," Lu Te said. "So, you didn't sense me but found Feng Bujua," Lu Te said from his side. Is that so?" After Brother Jew heard what 23 said, he was slightly disappointed, but he did not dwell on it. "Oh, well. In any case, I'll go find my teammates first." "Wait." Before Brother Jew left the room, 23 called after him and hurried to his side. "Take some money with you. It'll be easier to move around." As she said that, she shoved a dark red crystal into Brother Jew's pocket. This crystal was called Mana Vein, and it was the common currency of the Sane Origin world. It was also a supplementary item that was beneficial to cultivators. Both 23 and Luke could rely on the data conversion mechanism to create some of these items out of thin air, but not too much. This was also how the three of them got paid for a room. Please don't misunderstand the meaning of this term. Oh, thank you. Fong Bujue patted his pocket, smiled at 23, and walked out of the room. After the door closed, 23 still stood in front of the door for a long time, listening to the footsteps that gradually faded away. Her expression changed subtly. "What's wrong with you?" Lute asked after a while. "You're too slow, Lute," 23 replied. "What do you mean?" Lute asked. "When he said that he touched you, he was actually testing me," 23 said. "He was worried that after he left, I would harm you. That's why he said that." She turned around and sat back at the table. "When he confirmed that you weren't in a semi-conscious state, he was relieved. So that's how it is." Lute heard this and muttered. "Fong Bujue is like that," 23 said. "I'm sure you've observed him for a long time. You should know that. Many times his inexplicable, perverse, and even obscene actions actually have a hidden agenda." "I know," Lute replied. "If not, I wouldn't have given him such a high degree of tolerance, patience, and trust in his various actions." "Is that really all?" 23 turned her head, as if she was referring to something else. "Yes, that's all," Lute replied calmly. Then, the room fell into a long silence. Chapter 718. To the east of Harem City was a place filled with restaurants and restaurants. The streets here were very wide, and the distance between the buildings was also relatively far. This was because there were many lustrous trees planted on the empty ground. This was a tree unique to St. Yuan World. Its branches were like crystal, its leaves were like precious jade, and its flowers were green. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Phoenix Moon was the season when the lustrous trees bloomed. Phoenix Moon 12th was the full moon in St. Yuan World. Every year at this time, all the restaurants in the east of Harem City would be full. This was especially true for the upper floor seats near the windows. Even if one had the money, they might not be able to reserve them among them. The most famous one was a restaurant called Dinyuan Restaurant. This restaurant's dishes, wine, decorations, and service were all impeccable. Most importantly, the 3 floors of this restaurant were the best place to view the scenery in the east of the city. It was unknown when it started, but being able to sit in the Dinyuan Tower on the night of Phoenix Moon 12th had become a symbol of status and strength. Everyone seemed to have reached a consensus. Those who could sit there at that time would be able to enjoy the most beautiful moon, the most beautiful flowers, and the most beautiful person in St. Yuan World. This kind of enjoyment was not something that anyone could enjoy. Ji Welong had naturally heard of this saying. Therefore, she had set a rule. If one wanted to sit in that seat, they had to be famous in June and have a pair of treasures. The meaning of these 3 sentences were, first, if one wanted to sit in that seat, they had to arrive at Harem City 6 months in advance. Moreover, they had to stay in the city for half a year and not leave for even a moment. Second, they had to be famous enough. Those who wanted to sit in that seat would not be recognized by anyone. Third, not counting the normal expenses, if one wanted to reserve a seat, they had to hand over 2 treasures. The so-called treasures were extremely powerful treasures. In St. Yuan World, treasures were divided into 5 grades: low, low, medium, high, and high. As for the value of high treasures, it was beyond the range of what the Yuan vein could estimate. It had to be said that City Lord Ji had a good business sense. Not only Dinyuan Tower, most of the other restaurants in the east of the city had also set a variety of conditions. In order to catch a glimpse of Ji Yuelong's peerless beauty on the 12th day of the Phoenix Moon Festival, many people were willing to spend money like water. And Ji Xiaolong was happy to take advantage of this. If those people were willing to pay for the various expenses of the harem city, it couldn't be better. At this point, I'm sure everyone has guessed that the day Feng Bujue and the others arrived was the 12th of Phoenix Moon. This year, the people who had reserved a table at the Dinyuan Pavilion in the east of the city were the famous 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang in Jianghu. The four of them were brothers with different surnames, and no one knew their original surnames. They only knew that they were first famous in Mount Gang, a region in St. Yuan World. The four of them were now using their sworn names. The eldest brother was called Dao Zheng, the second brother to Zheng, the third brother Fa Zheng, and the fourth brother Zhi Zheng. Although the names of these brothers sounded like Buddhist names, they were not Buddhist monks. On the contrary, all four of them were famous playboys who lusted after beauties. Moreover, all of them were extremely handsome. Since they were able to enter the city, it meant that their appearance and cultivation had passed the test. Of course, they were not perverts and had never done anything like that. What they liked was to pretend to be cultured, consensual, and then abandon. Objectively speaking, they were still considered decent people. St. Yuan World was a world where good and evil did not coexist, and there was no such thing as neutral. Therefore, no one from the evil path was allowed to enter the city. It was just that their lifestyle was a little problematic. In the afternoon, the four of them were already sitting in a private room on the third floor of the Dingyuan Pavilion, drinking wine and chatting. Brothers, huh? I've been cooped up in this city for half a year, and today is finally the day. Dao Zheng said with a smile as he ate. Looking at his face, it was obvious that he was slightly drunk. Yes, big brother, De Zheng replied. Tonight, we brothers can finally see Ji Xiaolong's beauty. Sigh, what a pity. Fa Zheng raised his head and drank a cup of wine. Ah, we can see, but we can't touch. Huh? A third brother. There's nothing we can do about it. Zhi Zheng laughed. She likes women. Oomph. It is indeed a pity that such a peerless beauty has such a hobby. Dao Zheng took advantage of his drunkenness and said impudently, I'm afraid she will never be able to taste the joy of going to Mount Wu with a man in her lifetime. Hearing this, the other three laughed along with Dao Zheng and drank another round. After a few rounds of drinking, Zhi Zheng suddenly opened his eyes wide and looked at the street outside the window. He said loudly, Brothers, look, what's wrong? Dao Zheng and the others turned to look at the street curiously. It was fine if they did not look, but with just one look, their eyeballs almost fell to the ground. This. De Zheng stuttered. Who is this girl? I've been in the city for half a year, and I thought I've seen all the beauties in the city. Why haven't I seen this beauty before? She must have just entered the city today, Fa Zheng said. Maybe she wants to enter Ji Malong's harem? With her beauty, I'm afraid even Ji Malong won't be able to resist her. Zhi Zheng's gaze was still fixed on the street as he spoke. Brothers. Dao Zheng seemed to have an idea. Why don't I go down and invite her to this private room? That's great, De Zheng replied, but a second later, he seemed to have thought of something and quickly added, But, big brother, you're the elder. If you were to personally appear in such a situation, wouldn't it be a little too much? It's better for me, your second brother. Sigh, there's no need for second brother to do it. Fa Zheng said. I'll go no. Zhi Zheng's reaction was not slow. I'll take the trouble. Obviously, the four of them were not stupid. They all wanted to be the first to strike up a conversation. Huh, Dao Zheng laughed. Fine. When something good happens, the four of you run faster than anyone else. He put down the wine glass in his hand. Since everyone wants to talk to that girl, then why don't we all go together? That's not a bad idea. De Zheng smiled. Let's go together and see who that fairy-like sister likes more. Ha! The four of them laughed confidently for a while. They were very confident in their ability to pick up girls, and then pretended to say please to each other, and then rushed out of the third floor. At the same time, Su Huaishang, who was exploring the map on the street, had no idea what was going on. She had no idea about the background of this scenario. She had no idea who her teammates were and where they were, and she had no idea what her current mission was. She had been in the scenario for a long time, and all she did was wander down the street. Right at this moment, four figures suddenly descended from the sky and blocked her path. Miss, it's a pleasure to meet you. The four heavenly kings of Mount Gang bowed in unison and said that to Su Huaishang in unison. Then, the four of them straightened up to reveal four handsome faces. They all tossed her seductive and affectionate gazes. Air. Su Huaishang narrowed her eyes and returned a gaze that could be described as a pain in the ass. To be honest, she had seen similar scenes both in real life and in the game. She had even seen 48 male idol groups that were prettier than women confess their love at the same time, let alone 4 people. That scene was much more spectacular than this. I'm sorry, but how can I help you? Su Huaishang asked neutrally. My name is Dao Zheng. My name is De Zheng. My name is Fa Zheng. My name is Yi Zheng. Perhaps you've heard of us already. The 4 of us are the guests at the Dengyuan Tower tonight. Dao Zheng said. Earlier, when we were upstairs, we saw you wandering the street alone. De Zheng continued. So, we gathered our courage to approach you. May I know your name? Fa Zheng asked again. I wonder if you'll do us the honor. Yi Zheng said, and join us upstairs for a meal. The relationship between the 2 brothers was indeed deep. They were birds of feather and were even closer than real brothers. When they spoke, it was as if they were connecting dragons. I appreciate your hospitality. Su Huaishang was not in the mood to attend a dinner party with these NPCs. Of course, she rejected them without hesitation. I have other matters to attend to. When this was said, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang were shocked. They did not expect that they would be rejected, not to mention the attractiveness of these 4 flower experts to women. Normally, 99% of the people in this city, regardless of gender, would be so excited that their blood vessels would burst when they heard the words, Ascending Origin Pavilion Private Room. To be able to sit in that room on the 12th of Phoenix Moon without spending a single cent was an invitation that could not be rejected. However, Su Huaishang used an absent-minded attitude to reject the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang. Furthermore, it was on the street. In the city of the harem, the streets were filled with people who had reached the level of infinite qi. Naturally, their hearing was not bad. Furthermore, there were many people who were secretly watching Su Huaishang. Therefore, most of the people on the street stopped in their tracks at this moment and looked at Goddess Su with shock on their faces. 2 seconds later, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang also realized that something was wrong. Under these circumstances, if they were to leave with their tails between their legs, where would their dignity go? Miss, maybe you didn't hear me clearly. Dao Zheng continued to block Su Huaishang's path. He had no intention of moving away. I said Dengyuan Tower's 3rd floor private room. He purposely emphasized the words, afraid that Su Huaishang would not understand the meaning behind those words. Unfortunately, Su Huaishang did not understand the meaning behind those words. I'm sorry, I really don't have time. Goddess Su's attitude did not improve. Instead, she showed an impatient expression and turned to leave. Hey, Mississippi. Yi Zheng moved in a flash and blocked Su Huaishang's path. What's the hurry? It has nothing to do with you. Su Huaishang replied. Can you please move away? After that, she changed her direction and walked away quickly. This time, the people on the street all showed a look of schadenfreude. They surrounded the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang. Obviously, the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang were not going to be able to get out of this embarrassing situation. This kind of situation where the guests of Dengyuan Tower's private room were humiliated was undoubtedly something that the people, those who could not get a private room, loved to see. Wait. Dao Zheng finally could not take it anymore. He ran in front of Su Huaishang again. Miss, let's stop joking around. He lowered his voice and looked into Su Huaishang's eyes. We brothers invited you with good intentions, but you have this kind of attitude. Could it be that you want to humiliate us? Can you stop being so annoying? This time, even Su Huaishang was angered. If you don't leave now, I'm going to make my move. She was already annoyed due to the lack of information about the scenario, and now she was being harassed by 4 NPCs for no reason. Therefore, the thought of fighting rose in her mind. If Su Huaishang knew the combat power level of this universe, she would not have acted so rashly. Unfortunately, she did not know. She thought this was an ancient world. At most, it was a wuxiao world. With her current combat power, she was already invincible in the wuxiao world, so it was fine for her to make a move. I advise you not to fight them. Suddenly, a voice came from the sky. It was loud and clear and echoed down the street. When she heard this, Su Huaishang's expression shifted. There was a trace of surprise mixed with a trace of joy. Chapter 719. This sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder, attracting everyone's attention. The people on the street all turned their heads and looked towards the source of the voice. They saw a man wearing a long purple robe. Brother Ju's ancient appearance in the eyes of the NPCs was standing steadily in midair. He looked down at the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang with a condescending attitude. We really are fated. 2 seconds after hearing this, Su Huaishang adjusted her expression, turned around slowly, and looked up at Brother Ju. Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing. Feng Bujue smiled and replied. He then put away the pocket watch in his hand. He used it as a loudspeaker and descended from the sky. After landing, he walked towards Su Huaishang and said, "Come with me. We can talk on the way." Wait. Suddenly, an arm stretched out horizontally and blocked Brother Ju's path. Feng Bujue's eyes moved slightly, and he saw a very handsome face. "Brother, we haven't finished talking with this girl yet." Zhizheng put down his arm and walked in between Brother Ju and Su Huaishang, staring at Brother Ju. "I don't have anything to say to you." Before Brother Ju could speak, Su Huaishang spoke first. As she spoke, she walked around Zhizheng and quickly walked behind Feng Bujue. Feng Bujue glanced at the beautiful woman behind him and then looked at Zhizheng with a mocking expression. "So now, you're done talking. Don't be so smug." Zhizheng was angry. As he spoke, he secretly gathered his Saint Qi, as if he was going to attack his Brother Ju. However, a hand pressed down on his shoulder in time, stopping him from moving. "Fourth brother." The calmer Dao Zheng patted his brother's shoulder and walked forward. He whispered in Zhizheng's ear, "Don't be rash. Let's find out more about him first." After all, he was the big brother, so Dao Zheng had to consider the bigger picture. Even though he could not sense any saint origin from Brother Ju, the latter's ability to walk on air was obvious to all. He could not afford to be careless. Dao Zheng quickly put on a fake smile and saluted his Brother Ju. "I am the leader of the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang, Dao Zheng. May I ask?" "Well said." Feng Bujue clasped his hands behind his back and looked up to the sky. He replied without any respect. "I am the owner of Broken Sword Chahitsu." Feng Bujue. What Broken Sword Chahitsu? I've never heard of it." When Zhizheng heard that the other party was a nobody, he immediately lost his temper. "You don't even have any internal energy. I don't know how you managed to sneak into the city." He glanced at his Brother Ju and snorted coldly. "Good question. How did I sneak in?" Feng Bujue turned his face and smiled at Zhizheng. "There are 3 conditions to enter the city. Since you've emphasized that I don't have any internal energy, the only reason I managed to sneak into the city is that I'm more handsome than you, and I have a higher IQ than you." As soon as he said that, the crowd burst into laughter. Although the word IQ was unfamiliar to the passers-by, Brother Ju's meaning was clearly conveyed to everyone. Perhaps Feng Bujue's words were a little shameless, but the answer itself was witty, sharp, and satisfying. Therefore, the person who was being laughed at was Zhizheng. Hearing the harsh laughter, Zhizheng's expression became extremely awkward. His face was already flushed red. This moment of shame was something he had never experienced before in his life. "What a sharp tongue. I wonder if your skills are as good as your sophistry." In the blink of an eye, Zhizheng appeared in front of Brother Ju in a flash. He picked up the folding fan in his hand and swung it at Brother Ju's head. This attack seemed like a very ordinary attack, but in reality, Zhizheng had used his Saint Qi. If Feng Bujue was really an ordinary person without any internal energy, he would definitely die on the spot. A second later, a crisp sound was heard, and the folding fan suddenly stopped. Feng Bujue used only 2 fingers to catch the fan that was coming at him. Many of the onlookers present were Saint Origin stage experts, and after seeing this scene, they couldn't help but gasp. "Bitch, it seems like you want to compare notes with me, right? Brother Ju looked at Ji Zhang's shocked face and said in a deep voice, "What did you call me?" Ji Zhang was still in shock and was angered by Brother Ju's insulting words. "Bitch," Feng Bujue said as he grabbed the folding fan from Ji Zhang's hand. "You can call me a bird man, but I can't call you a bitch?" Ji Zhang was so angry that he did not care that his folding fan was stolen. He only said, "I am Ji Tian Wang, one of the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang. How dare you call me bitch bitch? B*TC." Feng Bujue repeated the word loudly 3 times. Each time, his tone became more arrogant, and each time, his pronunciation became clearer and clearer. Not only did he stop Ji Zhang with his words, he also used the folding fan to hit Ji Zhang's head. Ji Zhang had never seen anything like this before. He did not know what to do and could only raise his hand to block the attack. Therefore, he was slapped 3 times by Brother Ju. The scene was like a teacher slapping a student. It was strangely comical. Enough. Dao Zheng could not stand it anymore. He stepped forward and snatched the folding fan from Brother Ju's hand. He shouted, "Master Feng, don't go too far, that's right. Just bully him a little." Feng Bujue said and turned around. "The 4 of you, please go back. The 2 of us have things to do. You want to leave?" 2 voices shouted at the same time. 2 figures appeared to block Brother Ju and Su Huaishang's escape route. The ones blocking their way were De Zheng and Fa Zheng. The brothers had already lost face today. If they let these 2 leave just like that, how would the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang be able to survive in a martial world? "Humph, Master Feng." Dao Zheng spoke again. This time, his tone was as cold as the wind. "We brothers have never met you before. Today, you suddenly appeared and humiliated my brother in front of everyone. Now you want to leave in one piece. Huh?" He continued with a fake smile. "I don't think it will be that easy. What should we do?" Su Huaishang saw that a fight was about to break out, so she whispered into Brother Ju's ear. "Should we fight? Don't worry about it. I will handle the negotiation." Feng Bujue whispered back. "If a fight really breaks out, you don't have to worry. Just protect yourself. I can handle it alone." After saying that, Feng Bujue pretended to clear his throat. He raised his voice to address Dao. "This is Heavenly King Dao." He chuckled drily. Allow me to sort out the current situation." He paused for a moment. "The 4 of you were originally drinking at a restaurant." He glanced at Su Huaishang beside him. "Coincidentally, you saw my 4th aunt walking alone on the street." When she heard this, Su Huaishang really wanted to kick Brother Ju, but the system wouldn't allow her to do so. "The 4 of you saw her beauty and came forward to invite her to accompany you." Feng Bujue continued. "After she rejected you, the 4 of you still refused to give up. You chased after her and kept harassing her." At this point, Brother Ju stole a glance at the crowd. Through their expressions, Brother Ju could confirm that his own logic theory was working very well. "Then, I show myself here, wanting to take my wife away from this place. But the 4 of you continued to be so aggressive that you even tried to assassinate me." He shook his head. "And on my side, I have always been patient." He raised his finger to point at Ji Zhang. "If I wanted to, that kid's head would have been removed from his body a long time ago. I only hit him a few times and scolded him a few times. That was already very kind of me." At this point, Feng Bujue turned around and glared at De Zheng and Fa Zheng. "Now that things have come to this, I have done my best. But the 4 of you dare to say that I am the one who has gone too far? You want to bully me with your numbers and make me your enemy." He raised his head to the sky and laughed. Ha ha! It was a very standard 4 laughs. Such shameless words and actions. It really is an eye-opener for me. What else do you want to do next? Beat me to death and then force my wife to accompany you to drink? He turned around as he spoke and looked at Dao Zheng again. "I think you should stop calling yourselves the 4 heavenly kings of Mount Gang. Why don't you just call yourselves the 4 bandits of Mount Gang?" Under Feng Bujue's bewitchment, the crowd was filled with righteous indignation. "That's right. Master Feng has a point. I saw it just now, too. The four of them suddenly jumped down from the roof and blocked the girl's path, bullying her in broad daylight. How preposterous. The crowd was abuzz with discussion. The words were like knives that were pressed against the backs of the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang. On the other side, Su Huaishang had also understood Brother Ju's plan. Even though she was unwilling, she had no choice but to accept it. "Just how long have you been watching from the side?" she whispered to Brother Ju. Actually, they were just one step ahead of me," Feng Bujua said. "I was just about to walk over to pat you on your shoulder when the four of them jumped out. So, you decided to hide behind the crowd and then sneak into the sky to make a grand entrance and save the damsel in distress." Su Huaishang narrowed her eyes and asked in a slightly annoyed tone. "That's right." Brother Ju shrugged with a smile. "Now we are even." Hearing that, Su Huaishang understood. Feng Bujue was taking revenge for the show that he had put on during their last fight. Fine, whatever." Su Huaishang shook her head with a bitter smile and stopped talking. Back to the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang. This is a bunch of nonsense." With the crowd's condemnation, Dao Zheng yelled loudly. But, against Brother Ju's exaggerated explanation, he could not refute it. He could only give a few weak denial. De Zheng, Fa Zheng, and Ji Zheng did not look too good either. They were stuck in a stalemate. They could not make a move, but they could not do nothing either. At that moment, suddenly, a shining golden figure descended from the sky and barged into this mess. "Let's end this here." A deep voice spoke. The speaker was a yellow-haired uncle. The uncle here referred to an extremely handsome, mature man who looked close to middle age. The man wore a tight outfit and carried two swords on his back. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Many people recognized him the moment he appeared. He was the leader of the three elites under Ji Xiaolong's command, Yin Lulan. Dao Zheng looked and saw that it was an elite with Saint Infinity 9 transformations. He quickly bowed and said, "Oh, it is Signorine. I am Dao Zheng. Nice to meet you, brother." Yin Lulan interrupted him rudely. "Please." His gaze swept across to Zheng, Fa Zheng, and Ji Zheng, and the other three heavenly kings. "Return to your private rooms in Dengyuan Tower." He paused. "I will pretend that I did not see what happened just now. But, from now on, please be careful with your words and actions. Do not break the rules of Harem City." Once he said that, it was basically a foregone conclusion. Although the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang were all elites with Saint Infinity 9 transformations, only Dao Zheng had reached the 5th transformation. De Zheng and Fa Zheng were only at the 4th transformation. Ji Zheng was only at the 3rd transformation. Against a 9th transformation expert, the four of them had no chance of winning. Moreover, the laws in Harem City were strict. Most of the crimes carried the death penalty, especially when it came to indecent acts between men and women. Yin Lulan was the highest judge and executor of the law in the city. If he classified what happened just now as a crime, the four heavenly kings of Mount Gang would have nothing to say. Therefore, when Yin Lulan said that the four of them had no other choice, even if they lost face, it was still better than dying on the spot. "Oh!" Dao Zheng's face turned green and purple. However, he still suppressed his emotions and squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. "Senior Yin's reminder is very right. The four of us drank a few cups too much today. Therefore, our words and actions were inappropriate. I hope Senior and fellow Taoists can forgive us." After he said that, he immediately gave his three sworn brothers a look, telling them to leave quickly. De Zheng and the others understood and could only jump up awkwardly and run back to Dengyuan Tower. At this point, if they continued to stay, they would only be humiliating themselves. Meanwhile, Dao Zheng cupped his hands and bowed to Yin Lulan. He turned his head slightly and glared at Feng Bujua. "Master Feng, may we meet again someday." After he said that, he did not wait for Brother Ju's reply and left. "Everyone, please disperse." 2 seconds later, Yin Lulan shouted again, "Do not block the roads in the city." Actually, it did not matter whether he said it or not, because the show was over and the crowd was already dispersing. When most of the people had left, Feng Bujue took 2 steps forward and said to Yin Lulan, "Senior, thank you for helping me out. Brother Jew was just about to introduce himself when In Lulon interrupted. Master Feng, you don't have to be so courteous with me. In Lulon's expression was cold and stern. He was a very pragmatic person and liked to get straight to the point. I have heard about what happened at the South Gate. I came here to look for you. He paused and looked at Su Huaishang, who was behind Brother Jew. Then he looked at Brother Jew and said, "This must be Miss Liu, right?" In Lulon had never seen Liu Te before. The information he received was that the person who came with Master Feng was a beautiful woman with the surname Liu. Therefore, he mistook Su Huaishang for Liu Te. The city master has ordered to invite the two of you to meet in the Zhilian Immortal Palace. It's like this, Su Xiaoxiao replied. Both of you have heard from me that every year on the 12th of the Phoenix month, the city lord will tour the city to admire the flowers and look for beauties. She glanced at Ruo Yu and Hua Jian. However, this harem city is huge. It's impossible for the city lord to see everything in one night. I understand. Hua Jian understood quickly. On the surface, City Lord Ji only goes out to take concubines on the 12th of the Phoenix month. But in reality, she has been secretly looking for beauties all year round. You're one of her spies. You can say that. Su Xiaoxiao smiled awkwardly. Although Hua Jian's choice of words was not pleasant to the ears, the general meaning was correct. Actually, I only do this occasionally, and I'm often recognized. So today, I changed into a man's clothing, and what do you want now? Ruo Yu asked. Su Xiaoxiao smiled embarrassedly. Since we've talked about it, this commander might as well ask directly. She adjusted her expression and continued. Ladies, are you interested in meeting our city lord? At the same time, in front of the Lianxian Palace, the stagnant Saint Yuan in the air had begun to settle down. The battle between the two Saint Yuan experts was nearing its end. At this time, Mo Ruo Chio was covered in wounds and his strength was exhausted. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was only slightly exhausted. Just like what Liu Te had said in the previous chapter, at the same level, with each additional revolution, the amount of power would be doubled. So, the outcome of this battle was just a simple mathematical problem. A 7th revolution person fighting an 8th revolution person was like fighting with 50% health against 100% health in War 3. Even if the opponent was brainless, they might not be able to win. Young Master Mo, enough is enough. Lin Ke stood on the steps of Lianxian Palace and looked down at Mo Ruo Chio. If you continue fighting, you won't be asking for a fight, you'll be asking for death. Lin Ke's patience was almost at its limit. If not for the city lord's order to not harm Mo Ruo Chio's life, Lin Ke would have already killed him. So what if I die? Mo Ruo Chio's face was ashen as he forcefully pushed his remaining Saint Chi and stepped forward again. I'm asking for death. Why do you need to persuade me? Lin Ke snorted. You really don't know what's good for you. If I hadn't shown mercy, would you still be standing? She flung her sleeves and shouted, Mo Ruo Chio, if you don't leave now, don't blame me for destroying your foundation and then finding someone to carry you away. Her words were both a threat and a dissuasion. To a cultivator, one's foundation was extremely important. Once one's foundation was damaged, no matter how high one's aptitude was, one's cultivation speed and limits would also be affected. Lin Ke's harsh words were undoubtedly meant to make Mo Ruo Chio retreat. Unfortunately, as she had just said, Mo Ruo Chio really didn't know what was good for him. Over the years, young Master Mo had suffered too many setbacks and had long since become crazy. Right now, he was completely at a dead end. So he didn't consider any way out. Do as you wish, Mo Ruo Chio shouted as he pushed his Saint Chi. In the next second, an earthen yellow dragon-shaped energy condensed in midair and pounced toward the stairs. Lin Ke sighed. Why bother? Even the two guards at the door with Saint Chi at the limitless third cycle could see that although Mo Ruo Chio's attack seemed powerful, it was actually just an arrow at the end of its flight. Lin K simply waved her hand and pushed her Saint Chi lightly, dispersing the dragon-shaped energy without leaving a trace. It's not over yet. Mo Ruo Chio didn't give up, allowing blood to flow from the corner of his mouth as he tried to force his Saint Chi out. But this time, someone had strangled his actions before he could even think about them. "Let's stop, young Master Mo," a calm voice sounded. Along with this voice, a golden light descended from the sky and covered Mo Ruo Chio, completely suppressing his secret art. Yuan Suppression Golden Seal. After all, Mo Ruo Chio was the young master of one of the four great families. After being hit, he immediately knew the name of the artifact that was suppressing him. It seems that young Master Mo recognizes this artifact. In Lulan said as she walked over. Then you should also know that your Saint Chi is almost depleted now. Under the influence of the Yuan Suppression Golden Seal, it is impossible for you to make a move. In Lulan, Mo Ruo Chio turned his head and muttered the other party's name. Young Master Mo had heard of In Lulan's name a long time ago. Before the latter had become Ji Xiaolong's disciple, he had already been a well-known figure in the pugilistic world. When people said, "One seal of heaven and earth, two swords overturn Lulan," they were referring to him. Unfortunately, this genius swordsman, who had high hopes for the righteous path, had been plotted against in a duel with the demon path's sword Venerable many years ago. Although he had successfully destroyed the other party's body and soul, his own foundation had also been severely damaged. This episode had completely changed In Lulan's life from then on. If it had not been for this duel, he would have already become a Yuan sage, and he would not have to submit to others and become the chief security officer of this harem city. Big brother In, you came at the right time. Lin K heaved a sigh of relief when he saw In Lulan. If you had come a little later, I'm afraid. She looked at Mo Ruo Chio. I wouldn't have had to do anything. He would have destroyed his own foundation. Sigh. In Lulan let out a deep sigh. Why do you have to do this? Yeah, these two are. Lin K asked when he saw Feng Bujue and Su Huaishan behind In Lulan. Oh, these two are the guests that the city lord wants to see. In Lulan raised her head and replied, I'll bring them to the front of the hall. What? Mo Ruo Chio was shocked when he heard this. She's willing to see these ordinary people without any internal force, but she's unwilling to see me. As he said this, Feng Bujue happened to walk past him. Brother Ju immediately displayed his talent in taunting. He turned his upper body and stretched out 2 fingers to make a victory sign at Mo Ruo Chio. He even said ecstatically, yeah, that expression, that gesture. It was as if a kindergarten child had received a little star. Su Huaishan, who was walking beside Brother Ju, could only shake her head and say in her heart, Big idiot, who are you? Why is Ruo Air willing to see you? Although Mo Ruo Chio did not know why the man in front of him suddenly said the word liquid to him, this did not stop him from asking the question in his heart. Under these circumstances, it would be inappropriate for Feng Bujue, who was invited, to respond to an uninvited guest like Mo Ruo Chio. This would make the host look rude. Therefore, In Lulan quickly stepped forward and blocked Mo Ruo Chio. This is Master Feng. He is a master from the outside world. He and his wife are the city lord's guests. I hope young Master Mo will not disturb them. What? He's a master from the outside world? Mo Ruo Chio looked at Feng Bujue from head to toe, but he did not sense any aura of a master from him. In Lulan then turned around and said to Brother Ju and Su Huaishan, this young Master Mo and our city lord have some. He thought for a while before continuing, some unfinished business. He paused. I'm sorry. He raised his hand and pointed at the door of the Lianxian Palace. Please don't mind me. This way, wait. Mo Ruo Chio shouted again. I don't accept this. This is impossible. He shouted. They can go in, but I can't. It must be you bunch of servants who made things difficult for him. It must be. Why won't he let me see Jean? Why? Shut up. Suddenly, a shout filled with Saint Chi came from the Lianxian Palace. It was a woman's voice. Even though she had only said 2 words, and she had said it in a commanding tone, Her voice was still pleasant to the ears and beautiful to the ears. You're finally willing to talk to me. Mo Ruo Chio's face was pale. He looked up at the ceiling in a daze, as if his Jeaner was already in front of him. However, Ji Xiaolong didn't want to talk to him. Therefore, only his voice could be heard, but not his face. Brotherine, can you please throw young Master Mo into the sea? Let him calm down. Why are you shouting here? As you wish. In Lulon cupped his fists and bowed to the palace door. He then turned around and put away the Yuan Qi suppressing golden seal. Mo Ruo Chio had just regained his ability to move. Before he could do anything, In Lulon summoned a flying sword and threw him away. What are you doing? Let go of me. Mo Ruo Chio wailed like a ghost. He had completely lost his composure. Let go of me. Why did you break us up? However, he did not manage to say much before he was dragged away. He's a stalker. Feng Bujua looked at the black shadow in the sky and murmured. This scene is so familiar. Su Huaishang whispered, but the version I saw was that he was dragged away by the security. It's not easy for you either. Feng Bujua added. It's okay. Su Huaishang replied. Master Feng, Miss Lu. On the other side, Ji Zhuolong's voice sounded again. Please come in. Chapter 721. As soon as Feng Bujue and Su Huaishang stepped through the gates of the Immortal Palace, the blurry scenery before their eyes became clear. Similar to the enchantment around the city, the enchantment around the Immortal Palace had the ability to block the view of the outside world. The interior of the Immortal Palace was indeed like a paradise. Beautiful trees stood in the courtyard and clouds drifted in the sky. Orchid Lake produced flowers and Jade Springs produced roses. Beautiful jade, beautiful and full of life. All kinds of precious and beautiful plants and jade stones that were unique to the Saint Origin world formed this dreamlike picture. Furthermore, this was only the front courtyard. After passing through the front hall, there were 4 other courtyards in the Immortal Palace. The beauty of those courtyards was unimaginable to those outside the Immortal Palace. Whoa, the scenery is not bad. Seeing this magnificent scenery, even Feng Bujue could not help but praise. Su Huaishang added, the smell here is also quite good. There is a faint fragrance. It is the fragrance of flowers and plants. Feng Bujue casually added, No. At this time, a gentle and pleasant voice joined the conversation. This smell is a woman's fragrance. Before the voice finished, a graceful figure walked out from the forest of flowers. It was a woman, but she was dressed like a king. She wore a black robe and a large red crown. She did not wear a crown, and her hair reached her waist. With just one look, Feng Bujue knew that she was Ji Xiaolong. I see. Brother Ju's face darkened, and he thought to himself, I think I can understand that stalker a little, so beautiful. Su Huaishang murmured as she stared at a person who was of the same gender as her. So beautiful, Su Huaishang murmured. This was the magic of Ji Xiaolong. Her beauty was stunning. No matter how many words people had heard to describe her beauty, the moment they saw her, they could not help but feel surprised and helpless. Brother Ju knew quite a number of beauties. Take the ones in this script, for example. Li Ruoyu, Lu Te, 23, Su Huaishang, and Yuaqin. Every one of them could be considered a beauty of the highest quality. Some of them were beautiful, some were beautiful, some were beautiful, some were beautiful, some were beautiful. However, Ji Tuolong was different from any of them. In her beauty, there was a kind of magnanimity, a kind of calmness, and a kind of disdain for the world. The flowers and plants in my pitiful immortal palace only contain an elegant aura. They do not emit a strong fragrance. Ji Tuolong was not surprised by Su Huaishang's reaction. She just smiled and continued, The smell you smell is the body fragrance of my beauties. In the entire Saint Yuan world, only those who are in my pitiful fairy palace, which is full of beauties, can smell it. After hearing Ji Mo's explanation, Brother Ju's first reaction was, Looks like your air circulation system isn't very good. Air circulation system? Ji Tuolong looked at Brother Ju in confusion. She repeated these words, but still did not understand what they meant. Oh, right. I haven't introduced myself yet. Feng Bujue did not want to stray too far from the topic. He immediately changed the topic. I am the owner of Broken Sword Chihitsu, Feng Bujue. After that, he raised his hand and gestured to Su Huaishang. This is my friend. Su Huaishang interrupted Brother Ju before he could say the words fourth and. Just a friend. There is no other relationship. Oh, this must be Miss Liu. Ji Tuolong smiled and looked at Su Huaishang with a gentle gaze. Su Huaishang blushed slightly in the face of such a charming smile. She nervously replied, I think you've misunderstood. Miss Liu, who entered the city with Master Feng, is not here at the moment. On the way here, Brother Ju had already told Su Huaishang some things that happened. She paused for a second and subconsciously brushed her hair behind her ear. She then clasped her hands together and said, I am Su Huaishang. Oh, I am. Hearing this, Ji Tuolong's gaze quickly moved to the twin swords at Su Huaishang's waist. Miss Su, you are also a member of the Jianghu. I don't think so. Su Huaishang felt her gaze and instinctively placed her hand on the swords. This is just for self-defense. Self-defense? Ji Tuolong smiled and said, all right. She made a non-committal face, then turned around and said, please come with me. Hearing this, Brother Ju and Su Huaishang exchanged glances. Then, the former shrugged his shoulders and the latter nodded her head. Together, they followed. Not long after, under Ji Tuolong's lead, the two of them passed through the garden and came to the side of a lotus pond. On the rocky shore of the pond, there was a stone pavilion. At this time, tea was already prepared on the stone table in the pavilion. The three of them quickly walked into the pavilion and sat across from each other. When the steam from the first cup of tea was still rising, Ji Tuolong was the first to speak. Master Feng, I don't like to beat around the bush, so I'll be direct. She looked straight into Brother Ju's eyes and said, I'm not interested in your Saint Yuan cultivation method. This time, I invited you here because I want to have a spar with you to relieve my boredom. Oh, is that so? Feng Bujue replied lazily. Then what do I get in return? Brother Ju's reaction was beyond Ji Tuolong's expectations. She thought this man would happily agree to her request, but she did not expect him to be so calm as to talk about the conditions. What do I get in return? Ji Tuolong repeated the key points in Brother Ju's words with a questioning tone and a half-smile. Yes. Feng Bujue replied matter-of-factly. Even if I were to perform on the streets, I would still be able to earn some money, right? Now that you invited me here and asked me to perform for you, you want me to spar with you? Are you not going to pay me? Oh, this is strange. Ji Tuolong seemed to find the situation quite amusing. She laughed and replied, we are both from the martial arts world. Do we need to pay for sparring? Huh. Feng Bujue laughed and said, let me ask you, what is the martial arts world? Ji Tuolong seemed to be interested. She wanted to continue talking nonsense with her brother Ju, so she said, I don't know, why don't you tell me, and I'll listen. Feng Bujue replied seriously, the martial arts world is a concept of nothingness. It is used to describe the relationship between a group of organized and undisciplined non-government armed forces. His explanation successfully stunned Ji Tuolong. Oh, Castellan Ji rarely responded like this, but at this moment, she was a little confused. I don't think Castellan Ji is considered a martial arts world person, Feng Bujue said again. Does it not count? Ji Tuolong asked. No, Feng Bujue replied. Then what am I? Ji Tuolong asked again. You are rich, powerful, and have a group of private armed forces at a money bag, Feng Bujue said. Ha 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 ha. Ji Tuolong laughed heartily. After laughing for a while, she shook her head and said, I really didn't expect that someone would say that a Yuan sage is not a martial arts world person, but a money bag in front of him. At this point, Ji Tuolong's expression changed, and she changed the topic. Ah, if I'm a money bag, then what are you? Her tone suddenly turned cold. Are you a beggar? No. Feng Bujue remained unmoved and sipped his tea leisurely. Then you're a storyteller, Ji Tuolong said again. Haha. Feng Bujua put down his teacup and said, Castellan G, are you saying that I'm a liar who only knows how to talk? I didn't say that. Ji Yunlong stood up from his seat, clasped his hands behind his back like a man, and slowly walked around the pavilion. Although General Hua is injured, the person who can take his flowing fire cloud sword head-on is undoubtedly powerful. Then what do you mean? Feng Buju asked. What I mean is, Ji Tuolong said slowly, you are very good at bluffing and deliberately mystifying things. Why do you say that? Feng Buju asked. Ji Tuolong sneered and replied, most people, especially men, after seeing me, most of them will be distracted and at a loss of what to do and say. When I make a request, they will often agree without hesitation, without considering the consequences. She turned around and glanced at Brother Bujua. You're different. What about me? Feng Bujua picked up the teapot and poured himself another cup of tea. You know how to pretend to be calm. You use some weird words to disturb my thoughts and bargain with me. Ji Tuolong replied. I agree with the part about bargaining, Feng Bujua corrected her. But the part about pretending to be calm, I don't. You really don't? Ji Tuolong asked. I really don't. Feng Bujua replied. That's strange. Ji Tuolong obviously didn't believe him. In this world, other than the elders in my family, even enlightened monks will have some thoughts when they see me. She sat back down at the table. Master Feng, do you have a heart of stone? She picked up the teacup and took a sip. She looked at Brother Ju provocatively. In the next second, Feng Bujua calmly replied, I like men. Ji Tuolong had lived for more than 300 years. Whether she was a virtuous lady or a domineering lady, she had always maintained the image of a perfect woman in front of others. However, today, she had spat out saliva in front of two of them. Suppressing the urge to cough, Ji Tuolong wiped her face with her sleeves and stared at Brother Ju with her almond-shaped eyes. However, she soon realized that she had nothing to say in response. Sorry, I was just joking. 2 seconds later, Feng Bujua smiled maliciously. Like you, I like women. It's just that. I really want to see if you will spit out your tea. Scoundrel! Ji Tuolong was instantly enraged. She raised one hand and released a huge amount of saint essence toward Brother Ju's chest. Of course, although she was angry, she didn't intend to take his life. After all, Ji Tuolong was also a Yuan sage, and she still had her manners. She couldn't possibly kill someone just because he choked on his tea. Therefore, she accurately used the extreme saint essence first circulation stage limitless saint essence. Firstly, she wanted to test Brother Ju's strength, and secondly, she wanted to teach him a lesson. Bang! With a muffled sound, Feng Bujua was sent flying out of the stone pavilion. However, he wasn't sent flying by the attack. Instead, he instantly activated the body enhancement technique, change, and leaped out of the pavilion. The saint essence that Ji Tuolong had released chased after Brother Ju, but didn't manage to touch his body. 2 seconds later, when Brother Ju arrived at the center of the lotus pond, he suddenly leaned back and flipped over. In an instant, he used the tip of his toes to perform 5 Tempest Kick. Tempest Kick, 5 stars. Because this was a high-level usage of the Tempest Kick that Feng Bujua had created, he gave it a name, and even announced it, boom. As soon as Brother Ju executed his move, a violent collision sound was heard in midair. The two energies collided in midair and emitted a strange red glow. After a few seconds, the energy dissipated and the glow dissipated. The lotus pond was rippling. Feng Bujua placed his hands behind his back and floated in midair. He said coldly, I'm fine. Don't get too worked up. City Lord Ji was just playing with me. On the other side, in the stone pavilion, unknowingly, Su Huaishang had appeared behind Ji Tuolong. The pair of sharp blades in her hand were already placed against City Lord Ji's neck. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.